Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Tru Offseason, where we are here to talk about everything that's going on with the NFL. And of course, when I mean we, I mean myself, I mean Chase Oliver. And guys, it's a fun time here in the NFL. We got a lot going on with the offseason moving further and further along as we get closer to the start of the season. But Chase, sir, how are you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing good, man. Excited that we're getting the trash out of the way. We can talk about the South decisions and I'll move
That's
on with our lives in the next couple weeks.
That's not. Oh, I thought you meant doing the preview of the South. I was about to say the NFC South and AFC South aren't trash.
Yeah, they're both bad. Bad divisions.
Well, all right. But we want to thank all of you guys for tuning in. As always, whether you're watching us live, whether you're watching us on demand, we appreciate all of the support that you guys have given to the True Heel Heat Sports and Entertainment channel all over the past few years that this channel's been around, or the True Heel Heat main channel. We appreciate all of it. And, before we get into the NFC South and AFC South conversations, Chase, we did have a little bit of news today. We had the retirement. Actually, it's relevant to what we're talking about, but it's the retirement of one Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. And, you and I have some interesting, probably, memories of Honey Badger because he used
Oh
to be
yeah.
with the Kansas City Chiefs. So our respective teams saw him twice a year.
Way too
But
much.
yeah, but on the one hand, it's gonna, and we'll get into this more when we talk about the NFC South in particular and the Saints. But this has got to suck for the Saints from the perspective of losing a leadership piece. He was starting to slow down, but he was still playing really well. Like he had some pretty decent stats last year for what he needs to do or what's asked of him. But on the other hand, the Saints, who are in perennial cap hell, as you well know, continually trying to do rebuilds with them every year in Madden. This does save them some money. So,
Yeah.
so from that perspective, I think they get back like I think $8 or $9 million or something like that for
Oh,
on the
not
cap.
bad.
So yeah, like not a small amount of savings from that perspective. And if you think you can get after it a little bit more in free agency in 2026, then or just at least be able to extend some people that you maybe thought you weren't going to be able to, that's a good thing. But Honey Badger, I think, I think the writing was on the wall in the sense that I don't think he felt he was going to be able to force a trade. And for a guy who's been on competitive teams for a good portion of his career, I think he saw the rebuild that the Saints are going into, and he wasn't too he wasn't too keen on being a part of it. And hey, people got to make decisions for the betterment of themselves, betterment of their families. So I'm not going to hold it against them. But what do you think about the Matthew? I don't know why I'm pronouncing it that way. But
Tyron Matthew.
yeah, it's her Matthew. I keep thinking of Walter Matthau. That's why. I don't
Oh.
know why, but the name keeps popping in. But your thoughts on the retirement?
Yeah, it's a blow. He's been a great defender for many years in the NFL. Pesky defender. So even at his old age, he can still go. He can still cover. He can still tackle. That's the one thing that has not left Tyrann Matthews' game is the tackling ability, being able to run downhill and be able to take on any running back. So it's a big loss. But the Saints, they're on this new rebuild, the Tyler Shuck era. They need all the cap space they can get to re-sign our boy Shuck. So yeah.
So speaking of which, do you want to start with the NFC South, and we can start like with the Saints, or we can start with the AFC South, and we can talk about another piece of news?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go with the AFC South. That division is the worst. Like there's nothing to talk about. NFC South, there's a little bit more fun stuff to talk about. I feel like that's a great way to close the episode. Talk about the NFC South. Oh, talk about the AFC South to close the night. Like, what are you trying to get me nightmares before I go to bed? I'm just gonna sit here and I'm like, oh no. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the
So
NFC South,
yeah,
AFC
so the
South
AFC
first.
South last year, we had a repeat of division winners. Houston went 10-7, Indianapolis went 8-9, Jacksonville 4-13, Tennessee 3-14. Tennessee earning that first overall pick, which feels like you don't want it, but you get it.
Yeah.
the Jacksonville had a real kind of roller coaster of a season.
No.
That was kind of, there were games there where they looked really good, and there were games where they looked really bad. And the problem was that they could not close out games. They could get some leads here and there, but they could not maintain leads. And the defense could be hit or miss, but really a lot of it came down to Trevor Lawrence and the amount of money that he's getting paid versus the production that they're getting. Now, in this offseason, they lose Evan Ingram, can't re-sign him, but they have been able to figure out that they have a good wide receiver in Brian Thomas Jr. So we'll talk about how their running back room looks now. We'll talk about the addition of that big DB wide receiver pick. But the Colts last year, this is another season where another quarterback that you really like, Anthony Richardson, had some serious growing pains to the point that he benched himself at one point and was
tired. He didn't bench himself. He was tired.
He was tired. He was very tired after apparently not knowing that his cardio and conditioning had to be at the level that it needed to be after years of playing football.
You be 6'4", 250 pounds, John.
After years of playing football in high school, in college,
he barely played. He was a backup most of his life. We're not insulting
the NFL now. It's not his first season. It's not his rookie season.
You can count as rookie season. Got injured his rookie season. Why are we insulting? Big Tony, I'm here for you, man. Don't worry. I'm a believer. Not many are, but I am.
But the Colts really had some issues, and they did look like they could sort of maybe steal the division at one point, but it did not work out too well for them. And finally, last year, the Houston Texans, man, there were games where they looked like absolute world beaters, like when they destroyed the Buffalo Bills. But then there were also the Christmas game against the Ravens. And, it was a very up and down season for them also. But for them, it really kind of boiled down to the injury to Tank Dell and the offensive line really regressing. CJ Stroud is not, he's not the super duper savior that was promised. He had the sophomore slump, but how much of that is him, and how much of that is the O-line being unable to protect him? How much is that Tank Dell going out, Stephon Diggs going out on injury, as well as the fact that they don't really want to use him as a runner, and he's not supposed to be that. He's not a runner on the level of what you think of when you think of a running quarterback of like a Jalen Hurts, a Justin Fields, a Lamar Jackson, but he does have wheels. He does have the ability to move around, get out of the pocket, and scramble upfield. But they didn't really do a lot of design runs. And going to be interested to see if that changes a little bit this year. We'll see. But with those records and this change, this turnaround, that turnover that we see in the NFL every year, I think it's going to be interesting to take a look at this division. So which team would you like to start with first, sir?
Man, let's get the Titans out of the way. Let's get them out of the way. Like that. Not a lot of expectations for year number 2 for Bryce Callahan at the helm.
That's fair. So let's see. I probably should have done this as a. Why is it not? No, not working. Not working the way I wanted.
Oh, you should have done it as an Excel instead of the spread picture.
Yeah. But either way, so here we've got the current as of today roster for the Tennessee Titans. And like you can see on offense, like pieces. You can see the addition of Tyler Lockett coming over from Seattle. You can see Van Jefferson. He's never been like a super dominant wide receiver, but he is always been a really good like wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 on a team. Calvin Ridley, is a deceptively old, I would say, because of just how his career has worked out with the different with suspensions and so on and so forth. But they did add Alec Amanor, and they have added Kamara Dike. But the big addition, of course, is Cam Ward, the first overall pick that I alluded to earlier. They go and they get the quarterback, or at least who they believe is going to be the quarterback. But the biggest thing for them is the loss of their backup, Will Levis. And, let's let's
Saddest day in Titan history. People will say other things, but to me, as a non-Tennessee Titan fan, but as a big Will Levis supporter, it's sad because my guy, he was gonna take the spot from Cam Ward. They were gonna bench Cam Ward for Will Levis. Will Levis with that rocket arm, that great, and you know how rocket his arm is. He hurt his own shoulder because of that rocket arm, and it's sad. No Will Levis at all this year. The football world is being robbed of a generational talent. People won't see it now, but when he goes to a new team and leads that team to the NFC Championship, Saints, you guys will say Chase was right. It's all right. Will Levis, I always love you, buddy. Get well soon. I'm going to miss you and everything you bring to the table.
Yeah, so Will Levis, it's interesting because they're saying that I maybe saw some conflicting reports that this was a aggravation of a shoulder injury that he already had from the season, and maybe that was a reason as to why he you know played the way he played.
It makes
But at the
sense.
same,
I
but at the
believe
same,
it.
yeah, but at the same time, it is. I do think it's interesting that his camp really was stressing to the Titans, he's going to be ready, he's going to be ready, he's going to be ready. And now they're saying, we gotta get this fixed, in the sense that once they drafted Cam Ward, unless you really thought like, oh, we're gonna beat this guy out, how are you thinking from the perspective of I'm going to try to beat this guy out when I have an injured shoulder? Now, if the idea was maybe rehab it as much as we can and see if there's a trade market for Will Levis, that's fine. But it seems as though it's a little too late for Levis to be going on getting this surgery to try to make it back, because now it's going to look. I don't want to say it's going to look bad, but like it's, if you're trying to see what the trade market is for you, you're not really getting into it until probably the offseason. And if you're unless Cam Ward really like is absolutely terrible, the Titans really don't have a reason to keep you around. And the trade market's not going to be that great for you because GMs are going to be like, well, let's get the rookie. Let's get it. We'll be able to find somebody either in the draft or there's going to be other people who can be backups that we can have instead of him. So who are the big people or the big things that interest you from a roster standpoint change? For me, I do like the addition of Tyler Lockett.
Yeah.
I want to see if they're going to give more work to Tyjae Spears this season. Not that Tony Pollard is a bad running back in any way, shape, or form, but it just adds a little level of a more dynamic punch. And Tyjae Spears has seemed a bit more better of a catching receiving back coming out of the backfield than Tony Pollard. The Xavier Restrepo edition as well, undrafted free agent. That's going to be interesting. But who are the people that kind of stick out to you and to help them get on the right track when it comes to this division?
Yeah, I like the Cody Barton signing. I think having a legit linebacker will definitely help out that defense. That defense was really good last year for the Titans. It was just that, my dog Will Levis, he decided to make their lives a lot harder, but they weren't average. They weren't letting up a lot of yards in the game. It was just that they were put into so many short field situations that it was just like that defense had no answers when they're in the short field. And Cody Barton, he's much better than Kenneth Murray, who they were having at that linebacker position last year, because Kenneth Murray is a great run stopper, but when it comes to pass coverage, the guy is totally lost. While Cody Barton, nice little hybrid. He can run, stop, he can pass cover, he can call plays. He's worn the green dot before, so I do like the Cody Barton pickup, but also just seeing the improvement of a guy like Tavondre Sweat, who showed flashes last year. I'm actually very curious to see how he performs this year, entering his second year on the defense, because he had some flashes last year where I said, you know what, Tavondre Sweat, he could be a really, really good defensive player. And the offensive side of the ball, they drafted well. I think they got. I liked Alec Ayamanor from Stanford. I was a big fan of his, and I thought that was a great pickup. Treylon Burks, if he can find a way to get on the field with this competition, I still see decent potential in him. I know a lot of Titans fans are disappointed in him, but I do think Oh, nice, perfect. But I do think that there's a chance for Traylon Burks to maybe have a potential, bounce back, resurgence. He's entering year number what, 3 or 4 at this point.
It's great.
Yeah, year number 3. So, sometimes it takes time for certain players, and he was a younger player when he got drafted. So, maybe the potential is there for Traylon Burks to show up
Oh
as
no,
well.
this is year 4 because it was because actually when you think about it, he was part of
AJ Brown.
that AJ Brown trade.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I still have hope. I mean, it's year 5 when I give up on you, where I'm like, it's been 5 years. We know what you are at this point. But Traylon Burke, I could see something. But yeah, I honestly think that this roster, they're building something really, really well here. Kicking JC Latham over to right tackle is very interesting in my opinion because I don't think he's a bad left tackle. I understand JC Latham, big, mauler type offensive tackle. Like that's just who he is and stuff. And compared to like pass coverage, pass pro, he's probably not the best at it. But I liked having him and Peter Skoronski on the same side. I thought it was good. I felt Skoronski and him complement each other well. Dan Moore, I mean, he's a good stopgap left tackle for the time being, and they also have Udo Oyemanesco, who's going to be like a swing tackle for them. So yeah, to me, I would have kept Latham at the left tackle. You drafted him there. I Yeah, he's always been a left tackle.
Yeah,
JC Latham to me.
moving him seems a little interesting. It does actually like why what was the I'm wondering what the thought process was for
He's big. He's nasty. He can run block.
yeah
Right tackle.
yeah right. Yeah, but you know what? I think what we're gonna do for this exercise is we're not gonna necessarily like pick each game kind of thing or like say like what we think the win totals are. But I think what we'll do is because I also have the schedule up here. Let's take a look and see like what are the obviously we know division games are division games, and there's going to be overlap across all the teams that we're talking about today because well at least the first 4 because they're all in the same division. So let's talk about a few of like the kind of big important games that I think are going to be on their schedule. And the Titans start off with 2 really tough games to me. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a Broncos fan, but the Broncos defense is really, really good.
Well,
And
NFL Cam Ward.
yeah, like I mean, there can always be changes, there can always be regression, of course, but if we see even if we don't consider a net positive the addition of Greenlaw and Hufanga, if we just take the 2024 Denver defense, that was a really good defense. And so it's really kind of that baptism by fire for Cam Ward there. And then right after that, at least it's a home game, you have the Rams. And the Rams, whether we want to say the Rams are not as good as they were years prior, and they lose Cooper Kupp. The Rams are still a well-coached team, one of the best coached teams in the league. So the idea that Sean McVay won't be able to come up with things for the Tennessee Titans defense to have to worry about, I don't know. But what are some of the games that stick out to you? I'm sure that that Week 9 game to you is going to be interesting. But what are the ones that kind of jump out to you?
The Patriots game is very jumping out to me. Week 7. It could really tell you how this Tennessee Titans season is going to go. Facing against your old head coach Vrabel and taking on a team similar to yourself in the Patriots. Young, has a lot of question marks on the roster. This is like a good benchmark game for the Titans to kind of see like, hey, what is this team going to be moving forward, and what adjustments do we have to do facing a team that's at the similar caliber at us at Week 7. And then that's really like the only game that comes out to my mind where I'm just like, you know what? Like that's like the game. It's like Week 7 against the Patriots. Because like I could see it where the Titans are entering this game like 3-3 somehow. Like they're able to pull off a win against Arizona, Las Vegas, and the Colts, and then they lose to the Texans, the Rams, and the Broncos. And 3-3 entering Week 7 is not bad. And then later on, it's like this big game against the Patriots, and we don't know where the Patriots may be at that time, but that could be a big game for them. That could be like kind of like the game where it's like that's how their season swings their momentum
Yeah.
when they face the Patriots and stuff. Like, so I like that game a lot because a lot of interesting stuff there.
I know, obviously, once you get into that back half, it can get ugly fast, especially depending on how you are
Oh
leaving
yeah,
that bye week. What's the record leaving that bye week? Because, like, I mean, even if you get past the Patriots and you face the Colts again, then you have the Chargers, and the Chargers are a good team to play against. And then you have your bye week, and it's a chance to get healthy. But like, if you're coming into that bye week with a loss, you're coming out of it. It's another divisional game, and then it's the Seahawks who, we will know by week 12 whether Sam Darnold had turned it around or whether or not it really was KOC who was the recipe for Darnold's success in Minnesota. But the Seahawks are a competitive team. Like JSN, K9, Charbonnet, like those are enough pieces and to be able to move things around, move the ball around through different means, through the air, on the ground. And the Seahawks defense has always been pretty stout. So this idea of what the Titans are in 2025, and more importantly, what they will be in 2026, it's really this back half of the season is pretty interesting from that perspective, because from an NFC standpoint, if you want, or AFC standpoint, if you want to be a playoff team, there's some teams on here that you got to be able to beat, like the Cleveland Browns. Like, it's not in the sense that the Browns are, because the Browns have been lackluster, but the Browns are always feisty. Like, they're always competitive, and even without Jameis Winston, they're going to be competitive. And then, of course, you've got the Chiefs, and that's kind of the measuring stick in the sense of, can you beat the Chiefs? Can you find a way to work against Devil Magic? And if you can, well, then maybe you have a shot in the playoffs. So it's really going to be interesting to see this season for the Titans. Obviously, I don't think that they have super high expectations. And so what I did was I looked at what the current betting odds are for over-under on wins. And for the Titans, it's 5.5 wins for the season. So 6 kind of like is the number. Do you think it's 6 or do you think it's less than 6? And looking at this schedule, you can see 6 wins. That could be a little hard to find here and there. Like, obviously you have games where it's all going to come down to a field goal, and it goes your way, it doesn't go your way, kind of thing. But still, 6 wins is pretty tough to get. However, if you got the 6 wins, you have at least doubled the win total from the previous year. So, every game, if we want to say that football is a game of inches, every game won is on the schedule, especially compared to the previous year, is important, because you're not a team that is the Bengals or the Bills or the Ravens or the Chiefs, where it's kind of like, okay, playoff. Let's talk once we hit the playoffs. So we shall see with the Tennessee Titans. But let's stay in the AFC South, and let's turn to the quarterback that our good friend Neil calls Sunshine. And that is, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So here, once again, as of right now, we have the current roster makeup of the Jags. And this was a team that really needed to find a way to get offense and defense. And they swung. Like, whether it works out or it doesn't work out, at the very least, we cannot say that Jacksonville did not swing. And they went after it in the draft, getting Travis Hunter in the first round, getting different pieces throughout this draft. And Travis Hunter kind of fulfills both of those requirements of having offense and defense. Now, if you're a fantasy football player or a dynasty football player, you're very keenly interested to know which side of the ball Travis Hunter is going to be spending more of his time. And as of right now, it seems as though he's going to be more on the offensive side of things, and they're going to ease him into the defensive side of things. But that can always change. And one thing that I do think is interesting is, and I think we've talked about this a little bit, is it's like the minute he picks up any kind of injury, nagging or whatever, like turf toe, for example, or just something pretty basic, his defensive snaps are going to go to almost zero. Because right now you can see he's one of the cornerback 2s, but you can see he's one of the wide receiver 1s on the first string. So obviously they need him much more on the offensive side of the ball. And it's a offense that also added De'Ami Brown from Washington. That's De'Ami Brown, similar to Van Jefferson with the Titans. He's never been a super dominant wide receiver, but he has been a capable 2 or a capable 3 in a lineup. And when you have somebody as incredible as Brian Thomas Jr., who kind of really took the league by storm, most people were thinking, oh, it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., it's going to be Malik Neighbors, it could be Rome Odunze. Not that many people had Brian Thomas Jr. as highly productive as he ended up being. So when you have someone like that, De'Ami Brown can be a little bit more of that glue piece who works his way through the middle section of the field. Brenton Strange, that's another one that I think is going to be interesting to watch, simply because they couldn't afford to pay Evan Engram. But part of what made it easier in their minds of not trying to really re-sign Evan Engram was Brenton Strange. And when Evan Engram was out on injury for a couple weeks here and there last year, Brenton Strange really stepped up. So seeing if he can be an actually viable tight end, I think that's going to be good. And for them, that's a great experiment. But also adding somebody like Johnny Muntz, who's very not a big name whatsoever, but he brings a lot of veteran experience. And he brings some knowledge of having worked with great tight ends. Like he's worked with TJ Hawkinson in Minnesota, and the knowledge that he gains, he can now help pass on to somebody like Brenton Strange. So we'll see how that works out. But Chase, who are some people here that kind of stick out to you as potential difference makers for the 2025 Jacksonville Jaguars?
Their first round pick from last year, Brian Thomas Jr. He's the ultimate difference maker. This guy is insane, just a freak of nature. There was balls when like Mac Jones was playing, and it was like, there's no way he's catching this, and he caught it, and I couldn't believe it. I was just like, oh my god, this guy is absolutely insane. BTJ, he's going to be a really, really special player for many years to come in the league, for sure. Defensively, I don't see anyone that stands out to me. Like Josh Allen Hines obviously is their best player, like when it comes to overall of what he can do for you on the field. But really, it's just that secondary. Like I gotta see more from them, like Tyson Campbell, Jerrion Jones, not Devin Lloyd, whoever is that the one, freaking the safety Eric Murray. He played okay for Houston. And Spats. But yeah, it's just like, to me, this defense is just so, especially in the secondary, so bad. And it's just like they just paid all these guys money too, more money to the defense that doesn't need it and stuff. Offensively, the offensive line I feel has gotten worse. Like this offensive line does not seem as strong as in years past. Like Patrick McCarry, he's kind of coming from a down year at Baltimore. Robert Hainsley, he was okay for Tampa. Wouldn't say he was great, but he was okay. So, yeah, Brian Thomas Jr., he's the only difference maker.
And I think what's going to be fun to watch, particularly because of fantasy football or dynasty in particular, is the running back situation.
Yeah.
Because last year, Travis Etienne, they came into 2024 talking about how they wanted to reduce his workload and split it more between him and Tank Bigsby. And they did do that to a certain extent. And then also injuries happened that as they do. And so coming into this season, a lot of people were wondering whether or not Travis was even going to be on the team. And so, we're doing this today on July 22nd of 2025. There's still plenty of time for a trade to happen. And part of the reason why that trade could happen is because of the Bashal Tutin pick and the LaQuint Allen pick. Both running backs have pros, both running backs have cons, but Bashal Tutin was somebody who was not necessarily projected to go higher. He was projected around a third, fourth round pick, but like later the third, a little bit higher in the fourth. But what he did, what the projection was that he was going to go to a different team. He was going to go to a more running back needy team because he has the ability, or he has put on tape enough promise of being more of the Tank Bigsby role, of being an RB2. So to see him come to a situation where he's an RB3, That's also fast. That's also fascinating and adding another layer to what the Jacksonville Jaguars will be. And ETN's in the last year of his contract. So it could be a situation where they're going to hold on to ETN, in essence, run him into the ground, and then be like, thank you for your service, sir. We're letting you go, or we'll trade you for, you know, a 5th round pick or a 6th round pick or what we can get to a team that says, let's at least kick the tires on the guy.
Yeah, or he could be like a surprise cut person. Like when preseason cuts happen, it's just like we'll get like the breaking Travis Etienne got cut, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my god, he got cut!" It's like, yeah, I guess you guys haven't been watching.
We'll see like a couple think pieces, best landing spots for Travis.
Yeah, 7 best landing spots for Travis Etienne, and then they show you.
And, you know, and I swear to God, you know what one of them is going to be? Dallas.
Denver.
Dallas.
Somehow Dallas also will be like first on the waiver wire and be able to get him. They'll be like, sorry, Zeke.
But you know, Jacksonville has for Vegas, their over under is 7.5. 7.5 wins. So let's take a look at the Jacksonville Jaguars schedule. And coming out of the game. You know, you can say what you want about Carolina, Bryce Young, whether Ted McMillan's going to help him out or whatever. But then after that, my goodness, you got to go to the Bengals. Then you play the Texans. You're at San Fran. And, you know, we're not necessarily going to know exactly what kind of San Fran we're going to get, right? Yeah. McCaffrey's fully back. Ayuk I think that'll be the last game that he'll potentially be still on the PUP list if he starts the season on the PUP list. Because right now, people being on the PUP list, you can be moved off, you can be moved on. It's not official until you hit week 1.
Yeah.
Then you got to go against the Chiefs, the Seahawks, and the Rams, and then you have the bye week. And by week 9, who knows what Pete Carroll has turned the Las Vegas Raiders into? Like, there's hope at least in Vegas. Like, you know, you and I may shit on them because they're the Raiders, but like there could be hope in Vegas that they're a good team. So what are some of the games here that stick out to you? And I know I kind of monopolized the first half of the season, but if there's any on there that really stick out to you as well, feel free.
Week 5 against the Chiefs, that's like the biggest game. You know, Monday Night Football, taking on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Like that's a huge win. And you know, we don't know. Like, look, let's just say, for example, Carolina. You know, they beat Carolina. All right, they start off 1-0. Cincinnati, known for their slow starts. Like we've seen that in this Zach Taylor era. Cincinnati can and will start off slow. So maybe they're 2-0. Texans, maybe that's the game they drop. Maybe it's a close loss and stuff. They're 2-1. At San Francisco, like you said, we don't know what kind of San Francisco we're going to get. Is San Francisco going to be in good form at this point? Then they could easily be 3-1 going against the Kansas City Chiefs in their home stadium. Big game, momentum. Yeah, I think that's the game right there. Kansas City, that's the game right there. That's a huge game, week number 5 against early in the season. I mean, it won't define their season, but it's one of those where it's just like you'll remember if they beat the Chiefs at home, you're going to say to yourself like, "Wow, yeah, they beat the Chiefs." You know, like this team is something. This team is special, and it's a primetime game too. It's not like, and it's not a missable game. Like you'll be able to watch this game live on ESPN, on ABC. Yeah, no, there has to be that Chiefs game. That's like every other game on this. It's like traditional Jaguar stuff. Like I'll see them on Red Zone when they score a touchdown type of game. Like this is a game where it's like people will be paying attention to the Jaguars, and it's a big Trevor Lawrence heat check game. Like, hell, Trevor Lawrence
for sure
show up. And even if the Jaguars, let's say they stumble out of the gate and they end up like entering this game 1-3 with like their one win being the Carolina Panthers, right?
Yeah.
At least then it's like, hey, maybe this is the game. You beat the Chiefs at home. You build the momentum. It turns the season around. What starting 1-3 and stuff. It's not the worst thing in the world. You know, there's plenty of football, plenty of weeks to be played. Especially when you look at the back half of the schedule, minus Denver. That back half is so friendly. Like Tennessee, Indianapolis, Jets. Then you go to Denver, Indianapolis, and Tennessee. Like you have a chance to jump your division too because you have all your division games and it's probably 2 of the easier division opponents that you have to face, and Tennessee and Indianapolis like so close to each other. Yeah, that's like one of those where I'm like, man, like you could actually steal your division because of the way your divisional matchups line up. Because you got to face the Texans week 3 and week 10. If you can steal one of the Texans games, that helps you out. And then later on, if you can just win out, you can steal the division. And if your record's better than the Texans, yeah. So yeah, that back half is very friendly, but that front half, they have to definitely survive a very tough front half of the schedule. Because the thing is, like Jaguars, they always play well against the Chargers, so I just feel like that's like a weird that's like the Chargers loss right there. And then like Arizona, they could beat them. Texan, yeah. So out of all the non-division games, Jets, I think they can beat the Jets. Denver's a tough one. It's at Mile High, so could probably give that to Denver. But yeah, I think they have a chance, man. Like I like that over 7.5. I think that's a good call. Like I think they can win 9 games out of this. I'm looking at this schedule. I think Panthers could be a win. Cincinnati can be a win. Um, Kansas City could possibly be a win. Seattle could possibly be a win. They always lose in London, so I'm never going to choose them in London. Raiders could be a win. Chargers could be a win. Arizona could be a win. And then you have Tennessee and Indianapolis. They're not going to lose both of those, I don't think. So I think they can win 9 games.
Yeah,
So
it's possible. But you know that it makes it kind of interesting from the sense of, okay, let's put it this way. If the Jaguars, granted they're over under 7.5, but if the Jaguars get to 9 wins or even 10 wins, and potentially they're in the hunt for a wild card spot, what do you think that says about Trevor Lawrence? Because that's really the question, right? Like they're now paying him $50 million a year, and granted, a lot of that is because that's kind of the going rate for competent quarterbacks. But game-winning quarterbacks, playoff game-winning quarterbacks, that's a different story, right? So Denver paid Bo Nix like $3 million last year to end up losing in the AFC wildcard round. Jacksonville is not trying to pay Trevor Lawrence $50 million to lose in the wild card round. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. That's kind of my question is how would that make you feel as a GM about Trevor Lawrence? I mean, granted, stats can be whatever, but from a win perspective, because that's in the end what matters. If they get to 9 or 10 wins, how do you feel about Trevor Lawrence, considering they were a 4-win team last year?
I'd be rather disappointed because this guy should be a guy that can at least get me 13 to 14 wins as a starting quarterback, as one of the like supposed elite quarterbacks in the NFL. Like you should be able to get me 13, 14 wins. Like we shouldn't even be thinking about like by December 7th, like that should be where it's like, oh, okay, like we don't have to worry about these last 2 Indianapolis Colts and Tennessee Titans games because we're wrapping up our division. You know, like that's the way I look at it. I would be rather disappointed if Trevor Lawrence can only pull out 9 to 10 wins. And most of those wins that I mentioned are home games. Like, where's the road wins at? Like, out of all the games that I mentioned, I don't think like Cincinnati and Arizona were the only 2 that were definitive road games. And I'm not counting your division road games. I'm talking about out of division road games. Like I can't, like I said, I can't see them beating Denver in Denver. Las Vegas, like you said, who knows what Pete Carroll. Plus, they're coming up a bye week. They have to travel, and they're going to meet Pete Carroll and Allegiant Stadium. So that could be a tough road game and stuff. But like, you know, beating the Chargers, it's not like you traveled all the way to LA, adjusted the time zone and everything. Like you got to stay in Florida against a team that you have a pretty good history at beating in the Chargers. So that's not really that an impressive home win in my opinion. So yeah, it's rather disappointing because you got to win those road games. Like the road games is where you should be making your money too. Is that like that's why Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, that's why they're some of the best, and they play against tougher teams, tougher environments in their division. Like Lamar and Burrow, they have to freaking play against the AFC North, and those homes, those away atmospheres, they're like college atmospheres between Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati. So yeah, it'd be rather disappointing. Like
part of the reason why I'm asking is because part of that swing for Travis Hunter was giving up the 2026 first round pick.
Yeah.
So if you end up with 10 wins, I mean, even if we're just looking at it from a short-term perspective, of course, but even if you end up with 10 wins, like Denver had 10 wins and was picking what, 21st, 22nd?
Yeah.
Chargers had 10 wins.
19th.
Yeah, Chargers had 10 wins, and they were picking 20th because you guys picked right after. So, like, the idea that you, lose, you're a borderline playoff team, or let's say a playoff team, wild card, but now you're also losing that first round pick. So when you do pick, it's at the back half of the second round. That's your first pick.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's tough then, because from an evaluation standpoint, you have to look at it and be like, what at this point does Trevor Lawrence need? Like,
Yeah.
what does he need? So leading into that, I think the final question that I have about the Jaguars in general, but one that I think you and I can tackle pretty well, is all of this is dependent on the new head coach. So Liam Cohen, granted the terrible introduction, terrible introduction aside, what from Tampa Bay do you think that he's going to be able to bring over to this Jaguars offense that's going to be able to help them kind of have that spark?
Simplified offensive play call, because he made Baker not think too much, and he made Baker, choose the reads that made sense, but also explosiveness. Like that's the one thing about the Jaguars, is they have a very like, if you're a head coach and you're like, I get the package of Trevor Lawrence, the potential of Trevor Lawrence,
Sure.
and Brian Thomas Jr., it's like, damn, if I can just figure out ways to get Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. to be this great connection, my job's going to be really, really easy, because I have a quarterback that everyone deemed as generational, the next Peyton Manning. And it seemed like he was on that track with Trevor Lawrence. Like, he was going to be that generational type quarterback. And then you get a guy in Brian Thomas Jr., who, a lot of people are saying, not the best receiver prospect, but athletically, he's a freak. And I like Brian Thomas Jr. He was my wide receiver one coming out of college last year, was Brian Thomas Jr. I was saying to people, like, I love Marvin Harrison. I think he's the most complete wide receiver. Malik Neighbors is probably the most explosive. But this BTJ, something about him, man, he just seems like he's going to be a beast. And he proved me right. He was a beast, Brian Thomas Jr. So I think having a guy that knows how to make it easy for the offense, and especially for the quarterback. He also does like a lot of things with the running back. So maybe this is something where we could see stuff like with Travis Etienne and with Tank Bigsby. Those guys can actually get involved in the offense as well. But I definitely think, just simplifying stuff for Trevor Lawrence, where Trevor Lawrence doesn't have to feel like he has to do everything and he has to force, throwing the ball deep, but making it where it's like, hey, you can take the easy plays, you can do this. I think he's going to do a better job at making it like what we saw with, like Dirk Cutter, what he did with Bryce Young for a little bit, like when he went there to Tampa, or no, what's it? Not Dirk Cutter.
Carolina.
No, is that his name? The Carolina head coach? I thought it was something else.
Oh, Bryce Callahan. It's Callahan.
No, Bryce Callahan's the Titans coach.
Why am I thinking?
Who he is a goofy. He's a white guy. He's a white guy.
No,
David Canales.
Canales. That's
David Canales. So David Canales, like what David Canales did for Bryce Young at the tail end of the Panthers season, I think that this guy right here could do the same thing for Trevor Lawrence, Liam Cohen. I think Liam Cohen could try kind of do the same thing, start it off in the season, and add some explosiveness to this. And that was one of the reasons why they got a guy like Travis Hunter, a guy that will help, get attention off Brian Thomas Jr., but is also a threat offensively as well. That's why I was like, hey, just drop Tet McMillian. That way you have Tet, you have Brian Thomas Jr. Someone has to defend them. Like you can't leave both of them wide open and stuff. But they went with Travis Hunter because of the potential idea of, hey, offense and defense, we kill two birds with one stone. This is why we gave up a first round pick of next year for him, because we believe that this guy could be a playmaker both sides of the ball. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think he will make it easy for Trevor Lawrence, but we'll have to wait and see. Duval.
But part of the reason why I wanted to end with talking about the new head coach in Jacksonville is when you move to a team like the Colts, there is a lot of question marks around Shane Steichen and around this Colts team in general. So let's look at the Colts, who they added. And offensively, they didn't really add much. You
What's
know,
this?
they
Switch,
Daniel
switch.
Jones is
No. Switch. Big Tony with Daniel Jones. What is
he's
this?
currently projected to be the starter. But you know,
By
none of
you or who? Who? By who?
this is our lads.
It was our lads don't know shit because Big Tony should be number one. This is ridiculous.
But you know, they didn't really add too much from an offensive standpoint. You know, green green on the list means a undrafted free agent, and then gold means that they brought them in during free agency, and the red means that they drafted. But you see that they didn't really need to do much with the wide receiver room. They have three good to competent wide receivers. They've got field stretchers. Obviously, they have people that are great field stretchers, downfield threats, because Anthony Richardson will rip off like a 65-yard touchdown throw or a deep shot throw at least once a game, and the guy will catch it. Whether it's Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, they'll catch it. So that's not really an issue. The issue was always that middle section of the field, the short passing game situation. And so a lot of people had connected one of the two tight ends, either Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, to the Indianapolis Colts. And as the draft shook out, we saw that it was indeed Tyler Warren, who, whether you believe more in Warren or you believe more in Loveland, either way, they were kind of a 1A, 1B sort of situation. But Warren's coming from a Penn State offense where he really was that Swiss Army knife. He could run the ball, he could catch the ball, he could throw the ball in some points in time, which between Tony and Richardson and Tony and DJ, you never know. They might need to press him into service every once in a while. But he offers versatility to an offense that really needs versatility. And if they can get a healthy year out of Jonathan Taylor, this offense can be really good. The question is going to be who is it going to be behind center and whether that person is going to be making good decisions. So they did address a lot of their defense as well, mainly through free agency versus the draft. But who are some key pieces that stick out to you from the additions or players that you think are really going to make a difference for the Colts this year?
Latu. I love this kid. This guy is going to be an absolute stud. I liked him last year. I think he's going to do really, really good this year. Cam Bynum from Minnesota, I always liked as a safety for them. So that was a good pickup. I think that he's going to do some good stuff for the Indianapolis Colts. I think he's a very underrated safety. I don't think he gets the love as like most safeties do in the world of the NFL, but I do like that pickup a lot. I think Khalil Herbert is a nice change of pace back for Jonathan Taylor. Taylor's more of a speed type of back, while Khalil Herbert, he can thump between the tackles if need be. And I think he's a little bit better of a receiver than Jonathan Taylor, so I think that's going to be good. But yeah, Tyler Warren, they sprinted faster than Anthony Richardson trying to turn that card in because my God, like getting him at the position you were at in the draft at 13, 14, like this was the pipe dream. Like they probably had Tyler Warren on their actual board, like 2 or 3, because they're just like, yeah, we're not going to get him, but it'd be cool if we can get him and stuff. But he was probably like their legit number 1 overall player, and happy to get this guy. And like you said, it adds, a guy that can help with the middle of the field. Nothing more to help a quarterback than a big old tight end, a tight end that can kind of do it all. We saw in the college football playoff the catch radius of Tyler Warren and how he was just making these sick catches for Penn State. So, yeah, I think it was a great pickup with Tyler Warren. I think there's some stuff that he still needs to work on route-wise, but other than that, when it comes to catching, this guy will definitely catch the ball. But, yeah, I honestly think also Travarius Ward is a nice pickup. He's a little bit older, but he's still a good corner. He's still a good, solid starting corner. So I think the Colts did a good job addressing a lot of needs. It's just more that quarterback position that's probably going to hold them back. Is Big Tony going to figure it out? Is Daniel Jones really going to be the starter? Can Daniel Jones, have a chance? And this is big time for Shane Steichen. Steichen really needs to really step it up, to be honest, because he has been a massively disappointment as a head coach hire, in my opinion. Like, he came from like, hey, the reason why you drafted Anthony Richardson is because he's the guy that coached up Jalen Hurts and made Jalen Hurts into a competent quarterback. But he's not even letting Anthony Richardson do what Jalen Hurts does in the league and stuff. And yeah, But I hope Pittman he stays healthy. He looked kind of labored. I like Alec Pierce a lot. I think Adonai Mitchell could also have a good breakout season next year. So those are guys that I look at. Josh Downs is good too, but I see more potential in Adonai Mitchell and Alec Pierce than I do Josh Downs.
So similarly to the Jaguars, Vegas currently has the Colts as a 7.5 win
No.
team. So let's take a look at that schedule. So this is our Indy schedule, and they got to play they're all playing the AFC West this year, so that's gonna be a fun time for them. But Indy also plays the Steelers, and that's also going to be a fun game because we don't know exactly what kind of Aaron Rodgers we're going to get, but we will see by the time that game rolls around what exactly is happening in Pittsburgh. But what are some of the games here that kind of stand out to you when it comes to Indy's schedule and trying to get to that 8-win mark, at least to make Vegas happy?
Man, it's actually like there's a lot of tough games, and a lot of them are on the road. They get to go to SoFi twice. That's nice for them. The Chargers, I think, is a big game for them, just because the Chargers historically tend to play well against the Indianapolis Colts. So that's something that the Colts have to get over, is that Charger hump. Not only that, taking on the Raiders and the Cardinals right after, like at home, then you have to travel to California afterwards and take on a team like the Chargers, who is like at this point we don't know where the Chargers are at, but that's a tough game at week number 7, I think, for them. And like we mentioned before, with the AFC South, it goes with the Patriots game that also is going to happen week 7 versus the Titans. That could be a big game where it's like, hey, like we just beat a playoff team last year, and very similar to them, it's like no one believed in the Chargers making the playoffs. Like the Chargers were like, oh, cool, they got Jim Harbaugh. They're going to be a competitive, scrappy team, but no playoffs. Colts could kind of have that same aura where it's like people are kind of doubting them. People are saying to them, like, you're not a good team. You're not going to be great. Bam. Go ahead and you beat a team like the Chargers, who were in that same situation last year. And then you get that why not us confidence. And then afterwards, you get Tennessee and then another big game against the Steelers, week number 9. And we don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to be like. So week 7 and week 9, I think, are crucial games for the Indianapolis Colts this season, because those are against 2 AFC teams that are really, really big. But also, I don't think the Colts will win the division, but you beat the Chargers and Steelers. Chargers and Steelers are at least fighting for one of those wild card spots. That gives you head-to-head matchups over both of them,
That's true.
especially for when it comes to tiebreakers. Like that's what you have to look at here, because like they don't get the luxury, as we talked about the Jaguars, where the Jaguars got they have the same luxury as the Jaguars. Where they face the Texans, the Jaguars, and the Jaguars, the Texans. But those are much harder divisional games for them to win. So you might be thinking, hey, we could actually get a wild card if we get those 9 wins, and wins over the Chargers and the Steelers. That could help us, get into the playoffs. And even week 1 against the Dolphins, that's another game where if they win that game, the Dolphins are also a team that we might be saying as a wild card team as well. So and also Denver too. We can also throw Denver in that mix. But we're talking about road games that you want to see your team win, which is very important. Those are 2 big road games right there, because I think they can split between the Miami and Denver game, because they're both home games. They're going to at least have one home field advantage against one of those 2 teams. But the Chargers and the Steelers, if you can beat both those teams, you set yourself up for really good wild card 7 seed, 6 seed success, potentially taking out both those teams because, hey, they were at home and they couldn't beat you guys.
Right. Yeah, that is a good point to make. Those Chargers and Steelers games, those are going to be really, really interesting because, I mean, outside of that Seattle and Niners game, it's all division. It's really just all division.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you catch a hot streak and you're coming into that bye week with having stacked some wins, yeah, you got to come out of it and play the Chiefs. But at the same time, if you're in the mix for the division, you never know. And we have seen with the AFC South the past couple of years, the division kind of doesn't get decided until the end.
Yeah.
So we'll see with this one. But that takes us from the Indianapolis Colts to the reigning AFC South champions, the Houston Texans. And the Texans, they had some serious turnover this year. For starters, they trade away Laramie Tunsil, but you can see on that offense side of the ball, there's a lot of new faces and a lot of new faces in the starter section. That's going to be something that I think is going to be the real difference maker for this team and whether or not they're able to pull together and find that synergy, because you lose Stephon Diggs. Tank Dell is listed there, but he's listed in full red because he's already on IR. They don't have him for the season. They were kind of pressing into service people at the end of the year to be wide receivers. Like they were using John Mechie finally. But in the offseason, they get Christian Kirk. They draft Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, both from, was it University of Iowa, right? I think they're
Iowa State.
Iowa State, that's it. My apologies to Iowa State. But they're both two wide receivers that from the same school. I think that was kind of smart from the perspective of you have these guys who already know how to work well together. And the question is just, can they get on the same page as CJ Stroud? Because CJ Stroud is already on the same page as Nico Collins. So if those two guys can figure things out, Jalen Noel can potentially push Christian Kirk out of a job. And I don't want to say they're off to the races, but I will say that Houston has done some pretty good work when it comes to drafting wide receivers in the past. Like, they just have. So Tank Dell, granted, undersized, picked up the injuries, but when he was on the field, electric. Mm-hmm. Nico Collins, electric. So if they hit again with either of these two guys, and Jaden Higgins they gave the fully guaranteed contract to, but if they hit on either of them, that's really, really great for them. And you can see that this is, we talked about this last week, the addition of Nick Chubb, whether or not he's going to be somebody who can be that true like RB2, that second punch when Mixon needs to take a rest on the sidelines, or as you pointed out, Mixon picks up an injury. That's going to be something to pay attention to. But from this sort of, I don't want to say rebuilt offensive line, but between this offensive line, its defense, all of this, who are players that stand out to you as difference makers for the Texans this year? I mean, besides the obvious of like Derek Stingley Jr. or Will Anderson.
Jaden Higgins, I absolutely love. I think they stole a wonderful player at the top of round number 2. And I honestly think that Jaden Higgins is going to do really, really good things his rookie season. I think he's going to be he's fast. He's 6'4", great catch radius. I think he's the perfect complement to another big guy in Nico Collins. I also do like his former teammate Jalen Noel. But Jaden Higgins, I think that is a really, really big pickup. Cam Robinson did well filling in for Darisaw, who got injured in Minnesota. And he was at Jacksonville playing pretty solidly. And he came to a Minnesota team and played really, really well. Laken Tomlinson also had a decent bounce-back season during his time with Seattle. So I do like that they improved the offensive line a little bit. I just don't think it's enough to keep CJ Stroud upright. That's like the main thing. Defensively, I mean, the team is pretty much the same. Like, they pretty much have really the same team. They just added CJ Gardner-Johnson, who's been a veteran safety, but we've kind of seen with CJ Gardner-Johnson that he kind of stinks everywhere else that's not the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, that's been kind of his MO. Like, during his time in Detroit, he was not really the CJ Gardner-Johnson that we're used to seeing, and when he was with the Eagles, he's great. So it could be like a system thing. Maybe there's something there that he can fall in love with the Texans system and play really well. I mean, they have wonderful cornerbacks. They have Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lamont, Jalen Petrie. Like, these guys are just studs. So they have wonderful secondary, good linebacking core. Yeah, it's a really good team. That pass rush is just ferocious. Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, Tim Settle, just absolute monsters. They killed poor Justin Herbert in the playoffs and stuff. So, yeah, no, I think they have a really good built team. It's just that offense. I don't know if this offense is going to be as consistent as we expect of it, to be honest. Like, I don't know about this offense being consistent because you have 2 rookie wide receivers. Like, I do expect both of them to see the field at some point in time. I don't see Christian Kirk. Kirk kind of showed he lost a step during his time in Jacksonville, so I don't see Christian Kirk being like a difference maker right off the rip. So
Yeah, so let's take a look. I mean, because Vegas has their over under on wins at 9.5. So Vegas is, their Vegas isn't necessarily saying that it's going to be the offense that wins, or it's going to be a defense that keeps games low scoring and allows the offense to eke out wins. But either way, they've got 9.5 wins for the Texans. They are treating them as the division incumbent. So let's take a look at this schedule. And oof. Look, I just feel bad for the Texans because they gotta try their best to exercise those demons of Christmas. Ghost of Christmas past will come week 5 when they go at Baltimore. But this is a very, very interesting schedule because once again, granted they are the 2-time reigning division champions, but they are being treated as a team that is expected to be really in the thick of it for playoffs. Now, whether or not that means just outright as the division or as the wild card, I think they are being projected as having the highest win total of the division. So the question here is, look at some of these games. Like, you've got to face Tampa Bay, you've got to face Baltimore, you're going to go up against the Broncos, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Chargers. Like, you're playing former playoff teams, a lot of them, and the Rams. You're starting off the season going to LA. So what are the games that really stick out to you the most? Because I mean, you could pick any of some of the games that I just mentioned, but like some of the ones that really stick out to you as kind of the games that we could say will potentially define the 2025 Houston Texans.
yeah, I look at that Buffalo Bills game, Thursday night football. That's like the one game where it's like we saw this last year with them where they came off Thursday night and they got shellacked by the Jets. And that was just like an embarrassing loss for the Texans. And you look at the schedule, like, first of all, they have an early bye. So that's rough. And then you go straight, you got Seattle, you have to travel there. San Fran and Denver, at least you get them at home. So you hopefully can split one of them. Then you go against a division rival against Jacksonville. And then you have to travel to the Titans. Then you go back home against the Bills. So you have 2 division games, 1 AFC game against the Broncos, and then before you face the Bills, like that's the key game here, that week 12 game. Just to see how they respond, after having 2 division games back to back, traveling to Nissan Stadium against the Titans. Maybe the Titans look to try to steal that win because the Titans play the Texans earlier in the season. Now they have to go ahead and face them again later. So the Titans may look at it like, hey, if we didn't win the game when we were on the road against the Texans, we got to at least win the home game. We got to win home stand. And then how are the Texans going to feel? Maybe they're beat up and bruised and they have to go take on a Buffalo Bills team on that week 12. That's going to be a tough ask for them. So I think that week 12 game, that's definitely the one you circle and you say to yourself, that's the game right there, because it won't define the Texans, but that win or loss can tell you, like, hey, where are the Texans at? Are they going to be the upper echelon like the Bills, like the Ravens, like the Chiefs, like the Bengals if they have, a good record? Or are you just like the Chargers right now? Or are you just like, the other wild card teams? Even though they're a division winner, are you just as good as a wild card team? Like, that's it.
That's what's fascinating to me is giving them 9.5 wins when this is their overall schedule, because they are being treated as a AFC powerhouse, which, like I said, they have earned. But the question was, how well did they earn it? Because if you're at Baltimore, home Buffalo, at Chiefs, those are the 3 AFC powerhouse teams.
Yeah.
Those are the 3. Like, if I told you, right, like, here's like just there's 4 teams that have over under 11.5 wins per Vegas. The Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles. There's only one NFC team in there. So the idea that you have to face all 3 of the AFC powerhouse teams, that really sucks.
Yeah, and the Texans also kind of face the same situation like the Falcons kind of got, or Tampa Bay kind of got put in last year, where they are facing a lot of divisional games early, but they don't have it like when we looked at the previous schedules where they would have 2 divisional games last and then 2 in like the middle of the season. They're all spread out. So those games right there against the Chargers and the Raiders, those losses could actually hurt you a little bit, not only just overall, but the fact that they're not division games and your last division game to win the division is the Colts. That could be a scary, scary thing. So they have to be on top of the divisional wins. Like sure, if you lose to Los Angeles Rams and Tampa Bay to start, that's not bad. They're NFC teams. Yeah, it hurts your overall record, but it doesn't hurt your key division record because you got to win against Jacksonville. You got to win against Tennessee because you don't see them until later. Yeah, no, this is a tough, like, and also too, like that's last stretch, Kansas City. Who knows what Arizona is going to be like? Then Las Vegas, like you said, we don't know about Pete Carroll. And sure, yeah, you beat the Chargers in the playoffs, but what if the Chargers are humming this season? What if the Chargers are a really, really good offense and that power run game that Jim Harbaugh wants to install actually works out? We've seen with Jim Harbaugh, it's always been progressive improvement with his teams. What if they just figure it out and like, Hampton and a one-eyed Najee Harris are just actually dominating the league in rushing, like we don't know at that point, but that kind of sucks for you guys because if you lose to the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Chiefs, those games, like I feel like they're as must win as your division games. Like you have to win those games too. Like so, I'm also going to add all those games right there because you don't have the luxury, as we saw with the Jaguars schedule and we saw with the Colts schedule, of getting 2 division games to end your season because you have to win against out of division games, but they're in conference games that you have to win that are very, very big. And especially if you're looking at playoff position, because the Chiefs, most likely they're the AFC West winners. Okay, lose that game, but you still want to have momentum. If you can beat the Chiefs in December, it builds up momentum of saying, hey, we can beat these guys in January if we have to go there. And then, because it's at Arrowhead. And then in December, you go against the Raiders. Maybe the Raiders are fighting for a wild card spot. You have to go ahead and beat the Raiders. And then you got to face the Chargers. Maybe the Chargers are fighting for a wild card spot. Got to beat them too. So, yeah, this is a very, very tough schedule for the Texans for sure. Like and they kind of got dicked over with the division games too being so early.
Yeah. So this one's going to be fun to track just because that last game, that Week 18 game against the Colts, just like I was saying, it really can determine the division.
Yeah, no, it can. Yeah, because the Colts schedule looks very much like they can hit their over and they can do really well if they win the games early on and stat pad a little bit.
But that closes us out for the AFC South. Let's take a little trip to a different conference. And let's go to the NFC South. So the NFC South, if we're talking about them, the NFC South last year, this was a division that very similar on the top part, but you had New Orleans coming in 5-12, the Carolina Panthers coming in 5-12, Atlanta coming in 8-9 after the stumbling mishaps of our guy Kirk Cousins, and then Tampa Bay getting a 10-7 record, good enough to win the division. And New Orleans, like that was just a ridiculous season where they started out so insanely hot that there kind of was no way to keep that momentum going. And then between injuries to wide receivers, injuries to Derek Carr, they just kept stumbling and stumbling and stumbling. Spencer Rattler could not kind of stem the tide. And to be completely fair to Spencer Rattler, he was being put in sort of an unwinnable situation. You don't have your starting wide receiver. You have Alvin Kamara, who is still good, but is aging. And there's just not that much offensive firepower. And you have a team that is continually hamstrung when it comes to their cap situation. So you have the Rattler having some issues, but New Orleans says, all right, we're going to try to figure this out. We're going to get Tyler Shuck. So moving from them to Carolina, you have Carolina that came out the gate not looking great. Teams were destroying them. Like teams were utterly annihilating the Carolina Panthers. And just you and I talked about it when we were doing the picks, the picks show. Just some of these games and how that affected morale were not good. Like you can't be losing 40-7 to the Washington Commanders. I get it. Jaden Daniels ends up being Rookie of the Year, but like you can't. That's too lopsided of a score.
Yeah.
And sure, there were games that they were kind of close here and there, but then you also just had games that you lost and you didn't look competent in them. So they had to do a lot of soul searching. They benched Bryce Young, bring him back towards the end of the season. He's starting to pick up momentum. They're being like, all right, we're at least being competitive now in these games. We can build around him. And that's sort of the story of the Panthers for 2024. Atlanta, we talked about this last week when we were doing the quarterback review, but Kirk had flashes where he looked like Kirk Cousins of Minnesota, and then he had flashes where he actually also looked like Kirk Cousins from Minnesota with some of those turnovers and decision-making issues. But towards the end of the season, they said, we are going to shut down Kirk Cousins. We are going to turn the reins over to Michael Penix Jr. And Penix lit a bit of a spark in the Falcons. And the question there is going to be the momentum, can it be sustained? The issue really was the defense, and we'll get to how they address the defense in the offseason. But that leads us to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the division for the fourth year in a row. It's kind of funny. The way this division has gone for the past 8 years has been 4 years of New Orleans winning and then 4 years of Tampa Bay winning. But Tampa Bay really, sort of solidified itself around Baker. Like, you can say that the first year with Baker was what it was, but the past year, 2024, they really did kind of just be like, he's the guy. He is the guy. He's earned his contract. And they had their stumbling blocks, right? Like, they would beat Detroit and then they lose to Denver and they give Denver that first win. And they also had situations where Mike Evans is injured, then Chris Godwin's injured. They're having to have Jalen McMillan step up and be originally planned on being the wide receiver 4. He turns into the wide receiver 3, potentially also wide receiver 2. Rachaad White takes a step back, but part of the reason why he takes that step back is the unveiling, so to speak, of Bucky Irving as a really dynamic running back. Nobody really had Bucky Irving pegged as kind of as good of a running back as he was, but he really did take the league by storm and kind of surprised a good number of people. And the question there is going to be, as he takes really the RB1 role from Rachaad White, how exactly is his ability to do it for a full season? That's going to be the real question. And also, because we talked about it with Jacksonville losing Liam Cohen, that's going to be another thing that they have to figure out, because we know that Todd Bowles is going to have a good defense. We know that he's going to be blitzing out of his mind. But the question was always, if Todd Bowles has the defense taken care of, who's taking care of the offense? And so that's going to be something that we talk to when we get to Tampa Bay. But let's start with the Carolina Panthers, because they are probably, out of all of these teams, they are the ones with the one with the most question marks to me, and the one with the most kind of potential, which sounds weird considering the Falcons being what they are, but because of just the real question there of this quarterback situation, we know the pieces around Michael Penix. The question is, what are the pieces around Bryce Young? What did they do? And you take a look at this and you see old man Thielen's there, Xavier Leggett, who didn't really do like as crazy of a job as people may have wanted him to, but you add in Tet McMillan, and that to me is kind of the difference maker for how this offense is going to run, because you still, the poor situation of Jonathan Brooks of being on IR, it's terrible for him to injuries that he has had. But Chuba Hubbard looked good enough to, he's not going to be like some ridiculous RB1 on a team, but he's going to be able to put up a good stat line for you across the season. And then you add in Rico Dowdle, who also was pressed into RB1 services, probably better as an RB2, but here now he gets to be an RB2 behind Chuba Hubbard. With Tet, this is a question of whether or not Tet really is as advertised. And if he's as advertised, then Bryce Young finally has a really good wide receiver to throw to. And what I feel is great for Tet McMillan is the idea that they kept Adam Thielen around, because Thielen's old man Thielen, man, old, but really good still. But more importantly, the knowledge that he can give to somebody like Ted McMillan, that's even more invaluable. But the defense, you look at this Carolina defense, and a lot of those games where they got shellacked is because of that defense allowing just kind of ramp. Now, you can make an argument that the offense didn't give them any favors, short field position, so on and so forth. But the defense had to step up. They weren't able to do it as much. And so now, while they're still working with this Bryce Young rookie contract, they said, let's throw as much money as we can to this defense. But who are the players that really stand out to you as people that can make differences for the 2025 Panthers? But also talk a little bit about, some of these rookies that we see, particularly on the defense side.
Yeah, defensively, getting Treshaun Warden and Trevon Morag, both from like AFC West divisional rivals. I'm happy they're gone. They're good players, and they're able to, hopefully be good players. You need someone across from Derek Brown. Now, Treshaun Wharton is not really like a pass rushing. They run a 3-4, so like you're not expecting it to pass rush, but he did well eating up space when Chris Jones needed a breather and making sure running backs didn't get running lanes. That's what you want Treshaun Wharton for. Trevon Morag is a great young safety in the league. I'm surprised Vegas didn't try to keep him. That's on them. The addition of Nick Scorton, who I really, really like a lot, I think that's going to be a difference maker in terms of the pass rush. Like Patrick Jones II was fine for Minnesota, but I think Nick Scorton, ultimately, he will be the main guy that we're going to be looking at here. And also Princely Umanalane, I believe from Ole Miss, off the top of my head. Big, physical. This guy is going to go ahead and he's going to get sacks. Like he's going to find a way to get sacks. He's going to find a way to stop the run. He's going to make a difference for this team. Not only them, but Jimmy Horn Jr. could be a good slot receiver for them. Tet McMillan, Tatoria McMillan, or I forgot what his mom wanted us to call him, Nanu or Tatoria McMillan. We can't call him Tet, whatever. He's going to be good. He's going to pair up well with Bryce Young. They've known each other since high school. It's been kind of like a dream for them to play with each other. I love the addition of Rico Dowdle because Dowdle, had a nice season for the Cowboys, and I think he could definitely have a nice season for the Panthers because it seems like they like to run by a running back by committee. Chuba Hubbard keeps making sure that doesn't happen, but they're going to run by committee. And then I think Trevor Etienne, surprisingly, he went to the 4th round. I like him a lot. I think he's just as good, if not a little bit better than his brother Travis. And I think we're going to see a lot of good things from Trevor Etienne. But a guy that, last year, the Panthers were hoping to have a breakout season, but didn't, was Jatavian Sanders, their rookie tight end from last year from Texas. A lot of people, and I mean this, a lot of people are saying, well, you miss out on Brock Bowers, it doesn't matter. There's another freak athlete in Jatavian Sanders. So Sanders got a lot of hype, and he just didn't live up to that hype. And they added Mitchell Evans in the draft as well. So it's like now it's like, okay, with Tommy Tremble, who, kind of similar, a guy that needs to live up to his potential. It's going to be interesting to see if Jatavian Sanders can answer the question facing Mitchell Evans. He was also a Texas tight end, right? He's the slow white guy. He can't catch anything, right? If I remember correctly off the top of my head.
Notre Dame.
Evans. Notre Dame. Okay. Mitchell Evans is a Notre Dame player. Who was a tight end that I liked? And I was like, man, I want him for the Chargers. He went to Texas, but Mitchell Evans, Notre Dame tight end. You should know if you drop to Notre Dame or Iowa tight end, they're going to be somewhat good in the league, halfway decent. So,
or they could be Noah Fant, who actually got cut. We
Yeah.
didn't talk about that in the general news, but
I don't think anyone cares that Noah Fant got cut. Like, what? He's just gonna sign with the Cowboys and not do shit. It's okay.
No, what if he goes to Miami?
It'd be great if you just get Kyle Pitts and Noah Fant on the same team, and they can just point at each other like the Spider-Man meme and say, "How come we're not living up to each other's potential?"
I think you were thinking of Gunnar Helm.
Oh, Gunnar Helm, yes. There we go. But yeah, I think that they added some good pieces, and It's just, hey, can Bryce Young, like, because sometimes this happens where a team plays really well at the end of the season, but then you start questioning, were they playing well because teams were taking them seriously, or are they playing well because teams were like, it's the Panthers. Who gives a fuck? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like the thing that you always got to think about. Like, the teams go on autopilot, and they were facing a lot of teams that
Yeah.
were locked up, ready to go to the playoffs, could care less about this game. Like, us beating the Panthers does not secure our playoff spot any higher. Like, it is what it is and stuff. Like, yeah, the teams tightened up when they needed to win the games, like the Eagles did when the
Yeah.
Panthers almost shocked them on the road.
Yeah.
But like, how much was it like teams just didn't give a fuck because they're playing the Panthers and they know that, yeah, we could win this game. It's not that hard. It's Panthers. So yeah, be interesting. But love my dog Bryce Young, greatest Bama quarterback of all time.
I was waiting for you to get to Bryce Young.
Hey, he's greatest Bama quarterback. What do we want me to say? Everyone's AJ McCarron, Bryce Young won a Heisman.
But the
Not
question,
Bryce Young had the worst Bama team of all time. Took him to the national title and had to help try to beat Georgia. Like,
the number of times a month I have to hear that.
no, I'm just telling you what Bryce Young did.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying.
Tua had 3 first-round receivers to throw to. Freaking Jalen Hurts had a really great defense behind him, and Mac Jones had the Heisman Trophy winner on his team. Bryce Young fucking he wasn't even throwing to anyone worth damn. Jermaine Burton, like, that was his best target. Like, what's his face on Detroit? J-Mo. He had Jamison Williams. Yeah, that's it. That's all my dog Bryce Young had was J-Mo. And J-Mo got hurt. So what are we going to say now? What are we going to say against my dog Bryce Young?
Well, the question is, now that he's not at Alabama,
he beat Georgia. Georgia, this really good team that has two national titles in the last few years. Like, he beat Georgia in the SEC title. Like, not our fault that Jamison Williams got hurt. Kirby Smart even said, J-Mo don't get hurt, we lose this game. Yeah, I agree. Bryce Young's the greatest.
The question is going to be whether or not he can hit what Vegas has laid in store for him. And the over-under on Panthers wins this year is 6.5. So let's take a look at this Carolina Panthers schedule and see where, potentially 7 wins come from. So what are the kind of big games that stick out to you, the ones that will define or potentially define the Panthers season and really help the Panthers make that full determination that Bryce Young really is the guy? Because to your point, he looked good at the end of the season, but at the same time, was that really the Bryce Young that we were anticipating, or was that the more of teams kind of potentially taking their foot off the gas? So, I mean, to me, obviously, you got the game, like a game against the Buffalo Bills in Week 8, but that Packers game, now that we switch from saying AFC games, now we're looking more at NFC games. That Packers game is going to be really interesting, particularly for, I would think, the Packers more than the Panthers. But you never know by Week 9. But what are the games that kind of stick out to you as really important? And man, I just looked at the bottom of that: Tampa Bay, Seattle, Tampa Bay. Yikes!
Yeah, I think Week 6 against the Cowboys, that's a really, really big game for them. Week 6 against the Cowboys, because look, it's Dallas. Eyes are going to be on Dallas no matter what. I know it's an early morning game, a 1:00 game, but that's going to be on the main Fox channel. Like, you're going to see this game. You're going to see the Panthers. You're going to see the Cowboys. It's one of those games where, if the Panthers are playing well at the start of the season and they can beat the Dallas Cowboys, that's big for Bryce Young's confidence. And then I also look at a game against, where was it that I was looking at it right here? The San Francisco 49ers, Monday Night Football, one of the few primetime games that the Carolina Panthers have. This could be a point where, hey, like, the Panthers are good and the 49ers are good. Chance for them, the Panthers, and also get a little revenge about the whole Christian McCaffrey trade. Yeah, get a nice little revenge, get to slap the Niners around and stuff. So I think that's a big game for them too, because that could also show where Bryce Young is at. Hey, if the Panthers are winning and they can win a big game against, always one of the NFC powerhouses, one of the perennial favorites to make the Super Bowl, no matter how depleted their roster will get, and the San Francisco 49ers, that's huge for him too. So I think those are the two games, just because they're going against benchmark NFC teams that have, the history and the tradition. But those are the teams where it's like you need to beat those teams. Like Jaguars, like that's a push. Cardinals, that's a push at this point for them. Falcons, yeah, that's a divisional game. You should probably win that game. Patriots is a push. Miami, sort of a push, like maybe more favor towards Miami in that situation. But against Dallas, you're on the same level, I think, as Dallas in terms of roster and what you have. It's just Dak's a better quarterback than Bryce Young. Can Bryce Young prove, hey, I'm as good as Dak Prescott?
Yeah.
I'm warped at whatever Dak's getting paid, I'm warped at. And then same with Brock Purdy. Bryce Young, like, aren't they the same draft, Bryce Young and Brock Purdy? Like they're the same draft, or Brock Purdy's 1 year before Bryce. I can't remember.
1 year before, I think. I'll take a look.
Yeah, because like Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. You were number one, bro. You gotta understand. Brock Purdy was the last pick. You were the first pick. You were the first pick in line, Bryce, not Brock Purdy.
No, Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy is the 22 draft.
Okay, so yeah, Brock Purdy was the last pick of his draft. Bryce Young was selected number one overall of all the 250 plus players that get selected in the NFL draft every year. So it's like you got a point to prove here that you're worth the contract extension that's coming up soon. It's coming up soon for Bryce Young. It's year number 3. This is when they start talking about it. So those are the two big games, in my opinion, because you got to go out there. Like the Packers game is also a big game for sure, but it's like Green Bay. It's like I feel like we don't know what they are yet. But San Francisco and Dallas, we know what they are.
That's part of why, to me, it's a big game, is because if the Packers are on the level, like win total wise, of the Panthers coming into that game, you can at least be like, listen, the Packers, if and when they figure it out, we were able to beat them while they were weak. And if the Packers have already figured it out and you do beat them, then you're like, we have the tools to get to being a playoff team in the NFC. What now do we need? Like very similarly to the Jaguars going, like, if we get to 10 wins and we are a wild card team, what is that final piece really that Trevor needs? Similarly to that, you may know by week 9, okay, really, yeah, Bryce is the guy. He is going to be earning that contract. How then do we get him the next piece? Because like if we look again at that roster, like the wide receivers outside of Tet, what does he really have? So if you get him another piece, or you are able to figure out that tight end situation, or as Sean Payton has said, one of the best ways to help a rookie quarterback is to have a really stout defense. Like if you tighten up your defense even further than you're trying to, at least in this offseason, what does that lead you to? So that Packers game, just because like the historically the Packers, whether or not they've been good or great, they've always at least been good. Like there's never really been, and granted, a lot of that comes from the fact that they had Aaron Rodgers for a very long time. But like historically speaking, the Packers have kind of been one of those benchmark teams of the NFC, and that's why that one really does stick out to me. Because like the Cowboys can have up and down years, but the Packers really are kind of perennially in the mix as it seems. So that'll be interesting to see there. But we got to talk about this team at some point. So let's get it out of the way. And we are talking, of course, about the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints. Man, if you want to talk about a team that has been a mess for a while. Now, granted, I've been on record talking shit about Derek Carr for years, and I feel you have as well. But we saw a lot of him, and that's the reason why we were always kind of talking shit. But their inability to kind of get the job done while having great defensive pieces is a huge fumble, because we have seen teams drag terrible quarterbacks to playoff games, playoff wins, potentially Super Bowls. We have seen teams drag quarterbacks on their last legs. I'm thinking of my 2015 Denver Broncos to the Super Bowl. And for a while there, the Saints, between the home field advantage and the defense, had really, really good teams. And they just could not get the job done. Now you have the Derek Carr retirement freeing up money. You have the Honey Badger retirement freeing up money. So maybe they're going to be able to kind of turn things around a bit when it comes to 2026. But they got to get through 2025 first. So looking at this team and what they've done in this offseason, I'm not like adding Brandon Cooks is great, but like it's Brandon Cooks. Like it's not like anything too crazy. Rashid Shaheed did very well at the end of 2023, didn't do that great in 2024. Chris Olave, you're now racking up concussions as a potential issue there for Olave as well. With the quarterback situation, Tyler Shuck is, some people believe he's an underrated prospect, but he's not. Like was a second round pick for a reason. So what exactly is going to be? There's a lot of question marks there. This offense is a serious build, like in a serious rebuild mode. And you can make an argument that they should be trying to trade some pieces away and being like, look, we got to do what we got to do until we get to where we need to be. But at the same time, how much are teams really going to pay for somebody like Alvin Kamara? Like, that's really the big piece that you have on offense to trade away, because you can't, like, even with the concussions that are now racking up for Olave, if you're talking about what are the pieces that we're going to try to build around, Olave would be one of those pieces. So Alvin Kamara is probably the biggest piece that you have to potentially trade away outside of maybe, that the New Orleans offensive line is not that great at all. But Alvin Kamara, what is he going to fetch at this point in time in his career? So you can also then look at some of the defensive pieces and some of the names that stick out to me. Isaac Yiadom, I saw him with Denver. Not that great of a cornerback, but hey, it's somebody. And the fact that he's being slotted in there as a starter, that's probably a little bit of a concern for them. But who are the people that kind of stand out to you as potential difference makers for the 2025 New Orleans Saints?
Kool-Aid McKinstry. He played really well for them last year when he was on the field, so I could definitely see him being a difference maker on the defensive side of the ball. Chase Young had a decent bounce back season for whatever his seasons are, and somehow the Saints found cap space to keep him, so there we go. Offensively, I see no one. Like, this offense is just cooked. Like, it's just such a bad offense. Like, Alvin Kamara is going to have to touch the ball 400 times a game just for them to have a chance, man.
Like, yeah, like if you're in a best ball dynasty league, outside of the obviousness of like Olave, or in general, but if you're in a best ball league, like Rashid Shaheed is probably the only person that you would want to have, because he's going to be able to have a boom week, and that'll work out for you in best ball. But like besides that, and the crazy thing is that I think there's multiple leagues where in Dynasty where, because of how I took over rebuilding teams or orphan teams, I have drafted Tyler Shuck because I needed a QB3. Like that's how I'm not looking forward to the bye week where I got to put him out there, but I'm like, hopefully he gets around 12 to 14 points, which is going to be better than whoever else I would have put into that super flex spot. But yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah, offensive tackles, like they drafted Kelvin Banks, who is a stud, so I like that. Tyrese Bulaga, he played really, really well last season for them, and he was their first round pick last year. It's never good luck when Trevor Penning, who you drafted as a franchise tackle, you have to kick him inside guard. And I don't know if this guy will ever figure it out, Trevor Penning. That's a horrible pick right there. But yeah, it's just like a lot of these guys, it's just like, especially like, I guess Bulaga and Kelvin Banks, those are their impact on offense, in my opinion, besides Rashid Shaheed, who I know will get like 170-yard touchdown a game or something. Like, that just seems like his MO. There's just like nothing here and stuff. Like, this is why I chose them for my Madden rebuild as my team I'll play franchise mode with. I just want to make Tyler Shuck the greatest quarterback of all time for no reason. I just find it hilarious to make Tyler Shuck awesome. Like, it's just like, okay, cool. But yeah, they have a lot of project guys. There are a lot of guys that are still trying to prove it, like Devon Goddard and Jonathan Bullard. Bullard had a nice career bounce back with the Minnesota Vikings last year. Goddard hit or miss with the Patriots. Like, some games he was great, some other games he was kind of but kind of like hit or miss with that. And then Chris Rumph, who has been on the Chargers team like for ages, always felt like he was going to be like that good third rotational guy behind Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram at the time, but just could never get out of his way with injuries. But he has blazing speed, and if he can stay healthy, yeah, he's going to be a solid pass rusher for you. But yeah, nothing really stands out. This team is just it's just a bad looking team, to be honest. And I do expect a rough first year for Kellen Moore. They do have Coach Staley on defense. That should help you out,
Oh,
right? Yeah, Coach Staley's a DC.
that's your guy. It's your guy, Brandon Staley.
My guy in hell, that's for sure.
But man, like if you look at the potential future for the New Orleans running back area, all hopes and prayers kind of rest on Devin Neal, because once Alvin Kamara goes, Condre Miller has not. I mean, granted, he hasn't seen the field because of some coaching decisions by Dennis Allen, but like behind Kamara, it's Devin Neal. Like Cam Akers has been a good spot RB1 for teams for like 3 games here and there season. Velus Jones started as a wide receiver for the Bears, couldn't hack it. They moved him to running back, and even then there were issues. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I mean, there's a reason why he's not in the Chiefs anymore. Like Isaiah Pacheco just straight up stole his job. And so it's like, what really do you have there for a team that has been historically great at running the ball with Alvin Kamara? The future for New Orleans the run game, Devin Neal, you got to do your best to try to see the field. But at the same time, I mean, like maybe there's an argument that Devin Neal should try to not see the field so that the Saints have a higher draft pick. And speaking of draft picks, let's look at their over-under on wins. Oof. Vegas has them at 5.5 wins for the season. So let's see where some of these potential 6 wins is going to come from. Interestingly, I'm not saying I'm having a tough time finding the 6 wins, because like it is the NFL. And, any given Sunday is what it is. But this is a schedule where, like, every single one of these teams has just enough to be better than you.
Yeah.
Like, even the Jets and the Giants have just enough to be better than you. Like, I'm not ruling out a team of the Giants where week 5 we should still be seeing Russell Wilson, and you have Malik Neighbors. And with the Jets, maybe they figured out like how to use Justin Fields better, and similarly to how the Steelers did. But like the Jets have enough with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall on offense, as well as the defense with Sauce Gardner, where I'm like, I want to like, if Sauce Gardner is able to take away Chris Olave, well then, okay, Rashid Shaheed, now it's time for you to get that 70-yard touchdown. Otherwise, we don't know where these points are necessarily going to come from, because that Jets front 7 is good enough to be able to at least contain Kamara from getting some of those big plays. So what are from a not, because like we're not here to say that the Saints are suddenly going to be this division winner or playoff potential, but like from the perspective of hope for the future, is there a game here or 1 or 2 games that kind of sticks out to you as something that the Saints can potentially win, hang their hat on, and say, okay, going into 2026, this is what we need to do, and we can build a game plan from seeing the footage or the game film from this game?
I think the Giants and the Bears, those are the 2 non-division games I'm looking at. And even the Bills. I think the Bills would be a nice little early week 4, early season game. You win and you say to yourself, like, hey, we got that week 4 win against the Bills and stuff. We beat them in Buffalo. Like, what a win. Like they could hang their hat on that.
If the New Orleans Saints are beating the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, we have some much larger conversations that need to be had about the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying that's the win they can hang their hat on. Like that's a big one, because that they can hang their hat on. That's like their toughest. Like not to say the Rams aren't tough or anything, but like when you look at like, holy shit, like you gotta play that team. The Bills and the Niners are like their toughest games, but like week 1 and 2, that's still kind of like you're working out the kinks type of thing. So Not like if they beat the Niners, I'm not like, oh wow, the Niners stink. It's like, no, like you beat the Niners in week 2. Week 4, that's when the teams start to get their conditioning better, their breath is underneath them, and you have to travel to Buffalo, and you're used to playing in a dome, starting to get cold out in Buffalo. So that's why I say week 4, man. Like that's a tough game right there. That would be a big win. But I think the Giants and the Bears. The reason why I say the Giants is the Giants and you guys are kind of in similar situations where we just don't know what your teams are going to be. So if you can get a week 5 win against them, that's really big, especially at home. But also the Bears, like the Bears are like, the offseason champs once again, the hottest team like that people want to talk about, Caleb Williams and stuff. Like, how funny would it be that your rookie 25-year-old quarterback, Tyler Shook, ends up beating Caleb Williams and that vaunted Bears defense in Chicago at Soldier Field? Like, that's a big game. And that game's going to get eyeballs. It's at the 3:05 p.m. Time slot, so which means, if I'm looking at any other games, if we see any that pop up in that week 8, that game is going to be America's game of the week. No, I'm sorry, I was looking at the Tampa game, 12 p.m. Never mind, they're at regular time. Never mind, no one cares about that game then. I was going to say maybe it could be America's game of the week, unless the Cowboys were playing that week or something at 12 p.m. or 1 o'clock, as we like to say. I don't know why they show the Central Times here, but
oh no, yeah. It's because it's my screenshot. That's
why. Gotcha, yeah, but yeah, I think the Bears and the Giants. Those are the Giants. Just were like, hey, we're better than this shitty team, kind of morale boost, and then the Bears were saying, hey, we just beat this great young team, and we think we're a great young team, and our 25-year-old rookie quarterback beat like this second-year 22-year-old quarterback. Yeah, let's go.
Honestly, not that I ever would move to the West Coast, but I think that one of the strongest arguments for me to move to the West Coast is the fact that the morning games would start at 10.
John,
that would be amazing.
One weekend,
Colleen would hate it.
No, one weekend, you and Colleen come to California, find a nice hotel. I'll come meet you, pick you up. We can go to a bar at 10 in the morning. You're gonna be like, "Is this legal?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, what are you talking about? We're drinking at 9:30. It's okay." No, like we're watching football at 10, Chase. Yeah, and then when we're kind of a little drunk, it's gonna be 5 o'clock, and you're gonna hear the Sunday night football music, and you're gonna be like, you're gonna turn to me, and you're gonna say, "This is the best, Chase. 5 o'clock football.
Win, 5 o'clock football.
5 o'clock football," and I'm like, "Yeah, right." And we just watched all those games. Chase, the game starts at 5, and I'm gonna be like, "Yeah, I know it starts at 5."
I only thought about it because you brought up the fact that because I took the screenshots that they're Central Time.
Like people think it's like what I hate the most with East Coast people. They'll say, "Oh, that must suck. You have to wake up at." I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm a normal human being. I wake up at 8 in the morning. I don't wake up at like not at 11 in the afternoon, 11 in the morning. Like I have a normal sleep schedule. It's not a big deal for me to wake up to watch the 10 o'clock football games and stuff. Like, it's really nice. Like I just find it crazy. Like, you have to wait till 8 o'clock Eastern to watch a football game, and then you have to go to work the next morning. While for me, it's like, oh, it ended at 8. Cool. I can do other stuff before I go to bed and whatnot.
What a charmed life.
Yeah, no, but do it one weekend, and you trust me. Because I had a friend lived on the East Coast. He came and he said, "Chase, let's go watch the football games." And he was like, I was like, "Yeah, we'll meet at this place at 9:30." I picked him up and then everything, and then he was like, "Man, this is crazy, bro. It's like 10 o'clock and we're drinking." I'm like, "Yep, it's great, isn't it?"
But let's go from New Orleans. We'll stay on the East Coast and we'll travel to Atlanta. And the Atlanta Falcons, goodness, this is a team that had very high aspirations last year, and maybe they kind of knew what they were getting with Kirk Cousins, in the sense that they thought, hey, we plug in a quarterback of his caliber and we're going to do great. But if we don't, we're going to have this rookie who's going to be able to learn. And as it so happened, that is kind of what happened. And a lot of teams do think that they are a quarterback away. I am living proof that you can be a fan of a team that thinks that they're a quarterback away. But the Falcons really are a team, at least on the offensive side of things, that is a quarterback away. Because if you look, there's no change in the starters for this offense. You have a returning Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod. You have Kyle Pitts, which they don't really use him that much, but you have Kyle Pitts. And of course, you have one of the best 1-2 punches in the league with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. If you're looking at this from a fantasy perspective and you do redraft and you get Bijan, that's one of those situations where you really have to make the decision, do I want the handcuff? Because Tyler Algier is a player that you could even put in as a flex position when somebody else is out and you know he's going to get around 8 to 10 points, like if he gets lucky on a touchdown. But even if he doesn't get lucky on a touchdown, if you're in a PPR league, he's going to get around 8 to 10 points. So it's a very strong offense. The question is going to be, can Michael Penix Jr. really lead this offense the way that they want, that Raheem Morris wants him to be able to lead this offense? Mm-hmm. But you and I talked about this leading up to the draft and during our draft recap. Atlanta had to go defense. And that is sure enough what they did, with the exception of that left tackle that they drafted in the 7th round. There's like nobody that they drafted. There's nobody that they drafted on offense. Everything else is defense, to the point that they were trading up to get more people on defense. And it kind of shows in where exactly this position and all the position groups on defense are. They spent money on defense, which I'm not even sure how they have the money to spend it when you're going to give Kirk Cousins the amount of money that you're going to give him. But hey, being the most expensive backup, we did our backup rankings last week, and it's great to have. So let's look at this roster and see who are the kind of the people that are going to stand out when it comes to making a difference for an Atlanta Falcons team that really, I'm not going to say that they have the ability to necessarily win the division handily, because Tampa Bay is there, but you have the ability to sneak win the division very handily, because you were a team that were 8-9 last year, and you had immense shootouts with Tampa Bay that you won. You won those games. So all it took was 2 games. If you had found a way to win 2 games, you were the division winner. 2 more games, I'm saying. You were the division winner, because you would have had the tiebreakers over Tampa Bay. So who here on this roster, obviously, you have the Drake Londons and the Bijan Robinsons, but who here stands out to you as somebody that can really be a difference maker for the 2025 Atlanta Falcons and kind of get them back on track?
Yeah, Divine Diablo, a guy that, kind of has had ups and downs during this time with Vegas. I can see him being a difference maker. He's still super athletic. He's freaky good on defense. So one of the problems was the Falcons just couldn't stop the run a lot of the times. That, not just getting to the quarterback, stopping the run. And Divine Diablo, he may not be the best in pass coverage, but when it comes to stopping the run, he can shoot the gap pretty fast. He's super athletic, so I like that. But of course, it's their 2 first-round picks. So James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker, they were thinking they weren't going to get Jalen Walker. They were going to take James Pierce Jr. at their spot where they were going to be drafting. And then Jalen Walker fell to them, and they said, okay, yeah, we'll take him. And then when James Pierce Jr. kept kind of falling, and that's why I don't really hate that they gave up their first-round pick of next year, because this was a guy that they really liked. And when are you going to get yourself 2 really, really good, talented edge rushers that just know how to wreak havoc ever? Might as well take James Pierce Jr. as well, because offensively, hey, you feel good with what you have. You have you lost your longtime center, your longtime leader over there. But other than that, still have Chris Lindstrom, still have Jake Matthews, who's an underrated left tackle, still have Caleb McGarry, who's been a really good right tackle for you. Your really only question on offense is hey, can Kyle Pitts just figure out what we need for him to do? Because we know Drake London's a stud. Darnell Mooney had a great season for us. Ray McLeod, even though he was an ugly number for a receiver, he was really good for us in the slot. You have what you have. And then, like you said, when
second.
Yeah, 34. It's
I
you
was
can't.
like, as soon as you said it, I was like, what exactly is his number?
Yeah, 34. It's the ugliest number, bro. I didn't even look at the number thing. Like I just know it's 34. It's like certain dude, I would be the worst head coach when it comes to numbers. I'll tell you, you cannot wear that. What's your position? Wide receiver? It's like, no, you can't wear that. Like
Here are your choices.
yeah, here are your choices. You can go 1 through 10, 80 through 80, 89. Pick. 34, coach. No 34. Get rid of that. Get rid of that BS in your head. You're not Walter Payton back there, buddy. You're freaking Ray McLeod. But yeah, Penix, like, and this is kind of what New Orleans is thinking with Shook. You know, Penix came in as an older quarterback and he played well. Played well above his years. Shook, they're hoping it will happen in New Orleans. But yeah, Penix played well and stuff. They got my guy Easton Stick too. Not bad third string quarterback to have. Well, yeah, Bijan and Tyler Algier, they're great. But yeah, defensively, I think you know they answer the question. They bring in a great veteran like Leonard Floyd, you know, who's been very consistent as a veteran, you know, like and has played well in certain occasions, and he's from Georgia too, so like that helps out too. He has his hometown roots there.
Imagine a situation where, you know, Leonard Floyd, granted it's a 1 year, $10 million contract, probably not back next year if you hit on the James Pierce Jr. pick. But think about Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. being able to learn from somebody like Leonard.
Yeah.
That's why, like, when they signed him, it was before the draft. And the idea, like, they didn't know that they were going to get both of these guys.
Yeah.
As luck would have it, for a team that needs defense and needs defensive stars, you sign Leonard Floyd, and then you're able to draft both of these guys. So, like, that is an amazing, like, that is $10 million potentially well spent. And the potential, like, the probability that it's potentially well spent is pretty damn high.
Yeah, no, I like that pickup a lot. So yeah, I think the Falcons are doing the right things to have a right competitive roster for the NFC South, like and stuff. And if they hit on everything on their defensive draft picks and the free agents that they brought in, they're going to be a team that's going to be competitive in this NFC South. They have a very tough schedule. They have a lot of primetime games, so people are going to see a lot of the Atlanta Falcons and Ray McLeod wearing number 34. And then people will say, why is he wearing 34? He's a wide receiver. Choose a better number.
But with that in mind, let's turn towards that schedule. And before we get there, let's see. Vegas has the Falcons at 7.5 for their over-under on wins. So let's see where they can potentially get 8 wins this year. You're starting off with Tampa Bay. That already is going to be fun just because of the shootouts that we had last year. And granted, one of those shootouts required Kirk Cousins to put up franchise records in passing yards. So whether Michael Penix can do that and whether he can do it at immediately coming out the gate, that's going to be an interesting question. But you have teams on here that are going to be really in the mix for NFC playoff spots, because you can make an argument, like, and we'll get there when we talk about the NFC North, but it really can end up being once again a two-headed race between Minnesota and Detroit for who's going to be the division leader, division winner. And if that is the case, then the other one is the wild card spot. So week 2, having to go to Minnesota, that is going to be interesting as well to see whether or not that's going to be a fun test between Penix, J.J. McCarthy. You have 2 guys who were drafted last year in the first round. That's going to be a fun one. You have the Commanders again, Jaden Daniels. That's going to be a game to watch. So there are some really interesting matchups right out the gate. I mean, thankfully, you've got the Panthers in between there. But what are the ones that kind of stick out to you as the games that can help turn Atlanta around, not just from the 2025 season, but like build around Michael Penix? Like, let's already start thinking about, I'm not saying look past the 2025 season, but like, what are the games that stand out to you as the ones that go, okay, we won this one? Like, in the sense of, with the offense that you have, the around Michael Penix, the games that you're supposed to win. You know what I mean? Like, you go, we won the games we were supposed to win. Now let's win the games in 26 that we're not supposed to win. What are the ones that kind of stand out to you sort of from that perspective?
I'm gonna be kind of a hypocrite because I said week 2 games don't really matter, but you take on Brian Flores' game, Brian
Ooh,
Flores
yeah.
defense week
That
2 against Minnesota, like
and look at the
that
time.
that that would be a good heat check for Michael Penix. You take
Look at
on
look at the time
Flow,
on that.
yep, Sunday Night Football, big game. You know, I'm sure they thought Kirk Cousins is going to be awkwardly shown way too many times on the sideline and stuff. But that's kind of a heat check. That's kind of a heat check game. That's like kind of one of those where you can see like, hey, what do you have in Penix going against a tough B flow defense? Obviously, Washington. That's another game where you can say to yourselves like they had that terrific game week 17. Was it week 7? Yeah, week 17. They had that terrific Sunday night game that was just very, very fun to watch. So can Penix get one back on his fellow rookie or his fellow second year sophomore quarterback and Jaden Daniels? And of course, we got to look at week 6 coming off a bye. Buffalo, you have a bye week and you get to be at home taking on the Buffalo Bills, and what it looks like it's going to be one of those situations where we have 2 Monday night games. That's the Monday night game most people are going to be watching in that situation. So I think those 3 games are really, really huge for them because when you look at it, those are like the super tough games. Like obviously San Francisco as well. That's also another Sunday night game for them. But after that, you got Miami, New England, Indianapolis, Carolina, Saints, Jets, Seahawks, Tampa, Cardinals, Rams, Saints. If you can get through Minnesota, Washington, Buffalo, and San Francisco, it's up. It's
Yeah,
up.
and
It's up.
one thing that another reason why I really like that Minnesota Vikings game from the perspective of the Falcons' future is if Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. are able to get after JJ McCarthy and
Mm-hmm.
stop his ability to get the ball out to Justin Jefferson, that's going to be really phenomenal.
Yeah.
Really, really phenomenal. Because if you are able to, in essence, shut down a quarterback's ability to get to, like we said last week, either 1A or 1B, depending on how you personally rank Jamar Chase, the best wide receiver in the league, you can effectively fight teams in the playoffs. And it sucks that it's such an early test for them. Like if this was more towards the back half of the season, if you're Atlanta, you feel better about it from the perspective of you've gotten Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. into the rotation, into knowing how to play Falcons football, how to play that defensive style that they want to play. But also you could say, hey, iron sharpens iron, and the best way to sharpen iron is as soon as it comes out of the forge. And these guys are coming right out of the forge of college. Let's get these game reps. And then, you go, all right, now we figured out what happened with Minnesota. When we go up against the Panthers, it's a little bit of an easier game. But this is going to be that to me, and it sucks it's so right out of the gate, but it's your season in a sense. Because, like, yes, if you can stop Justin Jefferson, because he'll get his, right? Once the ball's in the air, I don't know if I trust the Falcons DBs to be able to stop it as well as other DBs. But if you can stop the ball from getting to him in the first place, then once you're facing a Tampa Bay offense that, down the road in 26 and 27 and so on, that's going to be throwing to not Mike Evans, not Chris Godwin, probably Igbuka and Jalen McMillan, and we're about to get to Tampa Bay, that's going to be where you're able to hang your hat on. So it's going to be fascinating to see this overall season for Atlanta, especially because of what the promise was of last season with Kirk. And now you're going from Kirk, who has a wealth of experience, to Michael Penix Jr., who has experience from college, but doesn't have the experience yet for the NFL. So that's going to be fascinating. But gave a little bit of a tease. We are moving from Atlanta. We're staying on the East Coast, though, but to the West Coast of Florida, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the reigning division leaders. This is a fascinating team that, did a lot. Did a lot with a little, but made some good key choices where they needed to. For me, the Hassan Reddick pickup, that's a really, really good add. And figuring out how to work him into this lineup, they have him there as first string, but how to really get him to do what Hassan Reddick does really well, that's going to be something that I think can really help this Tampa Bay defense that was good, but had some lacking moments. And you can argue that a player like Hassan Reddick, and because the game that sticks out to me outside of the two Falcons games is going to be the Broncos game for the obvious reason. But like if Hassan Reddick was on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's a lot harder for Denver to win that game. A lot harder. And those are the kind of games that you need to win. On the flip side, this offense, it's a fascinating picture because you have two wide receivers who are, I mean, they're legends in Tampa Bay. Maybe Godwin not so much as Evans. I mean, not maybe. It is for a fact probably that Evans is much more of a legend than Godwin as it pertains to Tampa Bay. But you have two wide receivers that have Super Bowl rings, and they are on their way out. Godwin, with the number of injuries that he's racked up over the years, it's for the slot receiver that he needs to be, it's harder for him to do that. And every year it just gets harder and harder and harder. 8 years now in the league with this 2025 season. Yeah. And Mike Evans, death taxes and 1,000 yards, it's going to get harder for him to pull that off as he gets older. And sooner or later, Mike Evans is going to be retiring. The question is going to be who is going to be able to step up in those positions. And last year, we saw Jalen McMillan make that step up, but they said, let's make sure we get help. And they went out and got one of the best wide receivers in this draft. One of the receivers that, for a long time, I was hoping Denver picked up. And then over the course of the 2024 season, as I saw Mims get more playing time and so on and so forth, I was like, okay, Denver needs a tight end more than they need another wide receiver. But Egbuka was connected to a huge number of teams simply because of what he's able to do on the field. And between McMillan and Egbuka, that is your future, Tampa Bay, when it comes to the wide receiver position. And of course, I would have loved Tez Johnson, but family is what family is. But hey, there's always hope down the road. There's always hope down the road.
Sorry for your loss.
But who are the players here that kind of stick out to you as the ones who are going to be able to really make that difference in 2025 for a Tampa Bay team that, let's not forget, they won the division kind of sneakily when it came to that run with the against the Falcons, because the Falcons had just picked up a couple more wins. It's a bit tougher of a situation for Tampa Bay, but a Tampa Bay team that also lost the playoff game against the Commanders off of a field goal in a game that we saw, and that was what helped us figure out what was going to happen with Detroit and Commanders. A Tampa Bay defense that could not contain Jaden Daniels, and that's really what lost the game. So who here sticks out to you from that perspective, who can really help get Tampa Bay not just back to the wild card round, but to that divisional and hopefully NFC Championship game if you're a Tampa Bay fan?
Man, it has to be a quarterback, Baker Mayfield. He's been playing well the last 2 seasons for Tampa Bay. Like, we thought this guy's career was over. It was done. He's now going to be entering with his 3rd different offensive coordinator during his time at Tampa Bay. He had Dave Canales. Canales left to Carolina. He had Duval. And then he went to Duval. And now he has this new offensive coordinator who was the passing game coordinator for them. So maybe not too much difference or change, but still that's something that you have to look at here. He's like the big time difference maker. And obviously their 1st round pick, Emeka Egbuka, embarrassment of riches for that. I get it that Godwin's still working through an injury, so he may not be 100% healthy to start the season, but Egbuka is going to be a beast for them, and that was just such a good pickup.
It's just, if Godwin's even back like towards the back half of the season, that's just unfair. Those 3 wide receivers.
Yeah, and then guys like Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan, and Sterling Shepard showed some life. Him and Baker have their connection during their time in Oklahoma. That's how they know each other. But Trey Palmer, he's a burner. They don't really have that much burners on the roster, and Trey Palmer is your burner. Jalen McMillan has shown that, hey, he can find the spaces and the zones to get open. So those guys are like the guys that I look at and I'm saying, okay, like these guys are your difference makers. Like those guys, the receivers, but mostly the quarterback and Baker Mayfield has to keep playing well. Defensively, they didn't really change much on defense. I think, really, to be honest, I just look at this defense and I say, wow, it's a really good, stout defense. Levante David is still in the fucking league somehow. Like he's like the only guy. Like, oh man, he's been in the league for way too long. Hall of Famer Levante David, by the way. I think we will be seen as bust in Canton for sure.
Yeah, it is a, there's where I'm going with this is that Vegas has them as a 9.5 win season, and so there's going to be some games that they got to win, like they got to win. And so let's take a look at what exactly the schedule is going to be for them. This is going to be I think from what I was looking at, I think it's very similar to Houston, where they are going to be going up against some pretty heavy hitters. Yeah, like I mean, just like we talked about coming out of the gate against Atlanta, but you're going to be facing the Philadelphia Eagles. You're going to be facing the Detroit Lions. You are going to be facing some teams, especially in that beginning part, because we don't know yet fully what Seattle and San Fran are going to be. But if they are who they were, then that's tough. You're going to be facing the Bills as well. But luckily, that back half of the season, that could be some good stuff for you. Now, granted, it's not that cold in Miami in December, having grown up in South Florida, but still, it could be chilly enough that could affect Tua. But what are the games here that kind of stick out to you from the perspective of securing the division for a 5th season in a row and kind of punching the division ticket to the playoffs?
You know, it's funny. You would think I would say the Eagles or the Lions, but I know that Tampa Bay can kind of beat those teams. They did it last year. They could do that. It's the games that you don't expect with this team. It is games against the Saints. It is games against the Rams. It is games against the Cardinals. Like I'm looking at that Cardinals game. That's a game I could easily see. It's November 30th. It's after Thanksgiving weekend. I'm on red zone. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, and look at this. Kyler Murray just going crazy all over the Tampa Bay defense. I'm like, Tampa, aren't you guys like, didn't you guys just beat Detroit and Philadelphia earlier this season? What's going on here? Like, that's the games I'm looking at right here. I'm not looking at the big games because I know Tampa Bay, they can win against those teams. They can win the big games against the teams. They showed it with Philadelphia last year where they caught them early in the season. Same with the Detroit Lions. Like, they can win those games. They're a good enough team to win those games. It's the games outside of your division, like the Cardinals and the Rams. Those are the games that they have to win, and they have to face them back to back. And they have a nice 3-game home stretch where they face the Cardinals and then they face the Saints and the Falcons. That 4-game stretch right there, that will decide not just Tampa Bay winning the division, but if Tampa Bay is worthwhile as like a dark horse to make the Super Bowl for the NFC side of things. Because, man, Tampa Bay, if they can beat Philadelphia and they can beat Detroit, and then I look at the rest of this schedule and I'm just like, wow. You tell me after that, like so you have Philly, San Francisco, Detroit. You beat the Saints heading into the bye week. You could be on top of the NFC because the rest of this schedule, that's not hard. You got the Pats, you got the Bills. Like, yeah, that's a tough game, but you dropping a game to the Bills doesn't hurt your NFC standings. Rams, Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Carolina. Like,
it's a lot of back-heavy divisional games.
Yeah, a lot of back-heavy divisional games, but it's a schedule where I could see this team actually going like 14-3, where it's just possible. Like you could go 14. They could go 14-3, especially like if they split like the Philadelphia or Detroit game. Like they decide, oh, like we beat Philadelphia at home, but we lost to Detroit in Detroit. That's fine. That's okay.
And imagine a situation where you start Godwin on the pup.
Yeah.
You get Igbuka really comfortable in that offense because he's the wide receiver too. And then maybe like around week 12-ish after that Rams game, Godwin's fully back.
Yeah. And then later on, you have
And you got to go up against Saints, Falcons, Panthers, and Panthers twice. And really, what you've got is the three-headed monster of a wide receiver group, where Emeka Ibuka is kind of like the weakest link, because just from a pure experience standpoint, not from a because physically he will be better than what Godwin is now.
Oh yeah,
and Mike Evans he could potentially be challenging Mike Evans for most athletic on the team.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, normally a first place team, you're like, damn, that sucks. You have a first place schedule.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this first place schedule and I'm like, yeah, besides Philadelphia, Detroit, and the NFC, not a lot of winnable games for them. A lot of winnable games. Like, sure, AFC side of things, they have to go face the Texans and they have to face the Bills. But other than that, a lot of winnable games. A lot of winnable games. So it sucks that they have to start the first 2 weeks on the road. That's always a sucky.
Yeah.
That's a sucky situation for certain teams.
But you do get to then host the Jets. So
yeah, so you get to host,
that's something worthwhile for them.
Yeah, so I do think Tampa Bay. This, if you're crazy, I think them to beat a 1 seed. That would be a good bet, to be honest. Like, I think they could actually secure the 1 seed, especially if they can get one of the 2 games against Philadelphia, and if they can beat Philadelphia, San Francisco, or Detroit, San Francisco, that's a great combination of wins that will help you secure that 1 seed and stuff. Because, Philadelphia still has the NFC East, and they love randomly dropping games to the Giants. True. And the Commanders are no easy walk for them. And who knows with the Cowboys and stuff. And then Detroit, they're in a very competitive NFC North. I mean, it was so competitive, it went to freaking Week 18 last year, where they had to decide who was going to be the first seed of the whole NFC. So like that's how competitive the NFC North was last year. So yeah, Tampa has a great shot.
Granted, we're not talking about the NFC East, but because Philly is the team to beat, really.
Yeah. And all the NFC, Philly's the team to beat.
If you look generally at their schedule, like Philly's got to beat Kansas City in Kansas City. They have to beat Minnesota in Minnesota.
Is that their week 1 game? Philly?
No,
Oh yeah. We got Kansas City in Brazil. I forgot. Yeah, we lost.
They got to beat Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay. The Eagles are gonna face the Broncos, which I don't think the Broncos necessarily have that great odds of winning, but they can be competitive with that defense.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got they've also going to be facing at Minnesota, at Packers, home to Lions. We don't know exactly what the Bears are going to be, but what's really fascinating about the Eagles' schedule is the last 3 games: at Commanders, at Bills, home to Commanders. So if you're from the perspective of Tampa Bay, to your point, if you're able to rack up these wins, you really have a potential of securing the number 2 seed in the NFC, depending on what happens with the NFC North. So we'll see what happens with a lot of this. But you know what? Let's let me get your thoughts. What are you thinking for our next region of the country? We have now finished the South, so you have the choices of the West, the North, or the East. I have a feeling we should save the West for last, just because of ending up talking.
I think we should save the North for last. Those are the more competitive teams. Yeah, we the North. We're most competitive divisions.
So who do you want to do next then? East or West?
East. Let's get rid of the AFC East. Come on, you want me to save the East later on? Like, come on, man. AFC, the NFC East. Okay, there's something to talk about there. The AFC East, the Jets, the Dolphins, anyone but the Bills. The Bills are the team. What else are we going to talk about there?
That's kind of fair. So all right, then we will be bringing up and talking about the NFC East and the AFC East next week, or next time we meet with you guys. But Chase, let the people know where they can find you, my good sir.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on X at ChaseOliver68. You can also check me out on the Around the Point Network when I'm available. I joined Steel Steven to talk about wrestling. If you guys like TNA wrestling, you guys should check out the review I did with True Elite Sports Entertainment and True Elite's own SP3. Had a great time just ripping TNA Slammiversary, that awful show I have to watch, and all my rants.
funnily enough, I have not watched the review, but I heard about the rant that you did, and that alone made me go, yeah, I should probably watch this review just to see exactly what you said.
I ranted about a lot of different things during that show. I ranted about Bully Ray, thinking he's the greatest wrestler of all time. I ranted about all the miraculous mistakes TNA has made over the years, and yeah, it was a great time. Like, if you guys want to see me ever angry or pissed off, I wasn't angry. I talk how I normally talk. I don't get all angry, but yeah, that's it. But yeah, Ben, I've been ranting. I was ranting throughout that whole review. Like, I think I had 3 or 4 rants that popped SP3 during that whole time. So,
but just because I can't resist, this is a live look at Najee Harris reporting to the Chargers training camp.
Oh man, yeah, big money Marks here, man. Yeah, the reason why this place is even in business, man. No one
That's
else.
Najee Harris
No
showing
one
up.
does it better than me, man.
Hold on? Did you see what Jim Harbaugh said about the injury?
No, what did he say?
He was just like,
did he say he's not a doctor or something like that?
He was like, oh. He was like, it's better today than it was yesterday, and the hope is that it's better tomorrow than it was today. And I was like, you know what? That's deep. That's deep shit. But
it's better today than it was yesterday, and the hope is that it'll be better tomorrow than it is today.
I was like, sir, that is so deep.
Fucking I'm just picturing him saying it in his awkward, quirky way of him just. I love my coach, man. I hope Jim Harbaugh's my coach for the rest of my life.
But also, did you see the?
Yeah, I saw this. This is. I'm just peeping on my boy Jay Herbo. I love it. I love that polo he has too, man. That striped Chargers polo. I've been trying to find it.
He's got to get a polo that's a yellow a version of the yellow uniform.
No. Let's stop right there. That's that's the worst uniform that we have. Like, the Navy's sick. You say that Navy jersey? That Navy jersey is clean. Yeah, that brings back great memories. Chargers fans witnessed the history. LT breaking the record against the Denver Broncos, man. Like, great times, man. 26 touchdowns rushing.
It's kind of funny because like Tankathon's already at it, but like they've got it's just like it's so funny because I'm like they've still got
I love early
they've got Arch Manning listed, and I'm like, I don't think Arch Manning's gonna be coming out.
Oh yeah, I don't think I think a lot of people that think Arch Manning's leaving. I think Arch Manning will play his 1 year at Texas, and if they win the national title, I think he stays at Texas. But if they don't win the national title, I think he transfers to a school that could possibly win a national title and stuff. Or we'll get him ready for the next level, like where he can get more starts, see different looks and stuff. Like that's why I was telling people I honestly think like a team like North Carolina would be a good look for Arch Manning as a team that could potentially
Manning coached by a Belichick.
Well, if you think about it, Belichick has like all these connections. If Belichick makes it past this college football season, we don't know. That whole situation is a mess. But also too, Texas Tech, they have a lot of money, and they've been cooking when it comes to creating a recruiting class. And if they're like, I'll say this when it comes to Arch Manning, there's potentially a lot of different teams that could pay for his services to be a starting quarterback. I would look at Texas Tech. I would look at Oregon State, and everyone's going to be like, Oregon State? Why would he go there? Oregon State has a guy that hates Oregon so much, a rich guy that hates Oregon so much.
I understand the rivalry between those.
Yeah. So Oregon State has this new guy that's coming in, and he's going to fund a bunch of NIL money to the Oregon State Beavers, and it actually has paid off because they managed to get Duke's Malik Murphy, who was a really good quarterback for Duke last year. He broke the passing touchdown record of Duke, and he transferred to Oregon State, and everyone like kind of raised their eyebrows, like, huh. You would think Malik Murphy would have gone to a more prestigious program if he was looking to win and get more looks, but he went to Oregon State. So don't sleep on those boys out in Corvallis, because I do think with this guy, with the money that he's churning and he's looking to pay to make sure Oregon State becomes and this guy is richer than the dude that owns Nike. That's why Oregon is going to have like this great NIL.
Wait, who is? What is his name?
He's like some Asian. He's like some Asian dude with Oregon State. He makes like he's richer than Nike, bro. Like, this guy's rich.
Oh, okay. This is just a hilarious name.
Yeah.
Nation. Oh wait, no, that's a doc. Wait, what is this?
This guy's a billionaire, like on his own without Nike.
Huh.
Yeah, he has money, man.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, like this is what's like I do zero belief that Arch Manning is coming out. There we go, a little bit bigger. Coming out next year. Like I don't see it.
Yeah. Drew Aller, I see him. I don't see him making it in the first round. I was not impressed with him in the college football playoff. He was very piss poor.
Well, then we should be grateful that right now they have him mocked to the Raiders.
No, I just don't see it. Now, Lenore Sellers, I don't know if he's coming out next year either, because he's a redshirt sophomore, so which means he's technically a junior, so he is eligible. Same with Arch Manning. Arch Manning's a redshirt sophomore for anyone that doesn't know. He could come out, but I could see Lenore Sellers staying one extra year as a starter, whether it is for South Carolina or whatever team he people were shocked that he didn't transfer. Like, that was like the most shocking non-transfer, because he played really, really well, Lenore Sellers, last year. So, but yeah, Lenore Sellers, he could potentially be a guy that could go in the first pick, be one of the first quarterbacks taken. And Garrett Nussmeier, yeah, Garrett Nussmeier is really good too. I think he's going to have a terrific season for LSU. And honestly, I think if Arch Manning doesn't come out, which I don't think he will, Garrett Nussmeier is QB1. Yeah, Nussmeier easily is QB1 in this thing. Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, I was going to say, that thing is interesting. Cade Klubnik coming.
Yeah, Cade Klubnik's good too. I like Cade Klubnik. I think Klubnik will be QB2 if Lenore Sellers stays in college. Like, he's like borderline QB2, QB3. But I could also see a world where, Cade Klubnik is also a second or third round pick.
Who could they got for you guys?
I mean, he's a Penn State edge rusher. They're normally good, so I'm cool with that.
They've got, and I don't know that much about Carnell Tate.
Carnell Tate's a beast. It's
Denver will probably need a Sutton replacement at that point in time. So
yeah, no, Carnell Tate, he won't get talked about because of Jeremiah Smith, because Jeremiah Smith is on Ohio State, and Jeremiah Smith is one of the greatest wide receiver prospects you will ever see since Julio Quintoris Lopez Jones. But Carnell Tate is a stud in his own right. Like, he like, you'll look at the numbers and be like, how? And it's like, I'm sorry that he has to play across Jeremiah Smith. Like, he didn't ask to play with this guy. Like, he wasn't asking for this, man.
Now, what's interesting is Tankathon's going off of like the Vegas odds for winning the Super Bowl. So they're anticipating a Ravens-Eagles Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's not happening. I think it's going to be Bengals-Eagles. Eagles beat the Bengals.
Oh.
Jalen Hurts gets revenge for Alabama beating LSU.
But guys,
he gets revenge for Joe Burrow kicking his ass and stuff. Nick Singleton in the second? I don't know. I think he's a first rounder, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does get interesting as you keep going.
Oh, Harold Perkins. Oh my God, a team gets him in the second round? Jesus. Deontay Lawson too? Oh my God. Like, I think both those guys could sneak their way in the first. Oh, Nick Harbor's just fast. Yeah, I don't know why he's a second rounder. This is some kid playing college football, and they're like, yeah, I throw it to Nick Harbor all the time, and it's like, yeah, no, you probably don't play real. Sam Levitt, second rounder. I like him a lot. Arizona State quarterback. also a redshirt sophomore. So most likely he will stay one more year in college, which I think he should. But I like Sam Levitt a lot. I like Sam. Where's my guy Haynes Keen at? Georgia Tech quarterback. Where's he at?
See if he's even on here.
Yeah, he better be.
It only goes up to 100.
Oh my god, are you kidding me? They don't have Haynes Keen?
Unless I missed it.
Dude, they better have Haynes Keen somewhere on here, dog. Because Haynes Keen,
they
have Justice Haynes, former Alabama running back, Roll Tide, really good. But damn, that's crazy, man. Haynes Keen's a beast, bro. Like his throwing mechanics need work, but when we talk about quarterbacks that like everyone loves based off athleticism and potential, that's Haynes Keen, dog. Like Haynes Keen, I saw what I saw in that Georgia game. He has dog in him, man. He can play in the NFL.
You know what I think we should do? We should try to see about a college football preview, because like you know me, I don't know anything really about college football.
Yeah,
I'm trying to learn more. So we should see if we can get like Romeo and Austin's schedule is crazy. So I don't know. Maybe we can talk to him and Neil maybe, because I know Neil's Notre Dame.
Yeah.
We can kind of see what we can kind of talk about a little bit, and like some big names to watch as it pertains to the NFL.
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, I like Haynes Keen a lot. I am a big Haynes Keen believer. So, but yeah, that draft class of Levitt, Manning, and Sellers, if they perform how they should perform,
Sure, yeah.
Like not this year, 2027, that's gonna be a good QB draft class.
But alrighty, guys, that's gonna be it for us for this go around. As we said, we'll be talking about the East next. But until next time, remember, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you all later.